Hey everyone, in this video I am going to play through the second tutorial in the BattleTech Aces campaign book. It's called Training Simulation, and it's the first tutorial that you actually play through. The first one, the book actually guides you through it and shows you how the cards play out, where everybody moves, things like that. This one's going to give you your first taste of action in an actual mission that has no consequences. So you built your force, you have your pilots, you're going to walk through a mission, learn a little bit about waypoints and how to use the edge abilities, but you don't have to worry about losing anything. It's a nice way to get a taste of how the campaign missions are going to work without having to worry about, losing a whole bunch of your units right away. So I'm going to read through the mission and explain a little bit about what's going on. I'll talk a little bit about the setup, and then I'll show you the map that I've set up and any adjustments that I've made for the table size. And then I'll play through it. I will spare you from having to watch me move every individual unit, and I'll probably just make my moves and then show you the aces side, how I evaluate the cards and move them, and then maybe just show you a little bit of the shooting. So the tutorials, the book's laid out a little bit interestingly because when you open it, it has a table of contents here, and then it gets you right into the guided tutorial. So this is called the Battle ROM Review, where it actually just shows you everything that's happening. So in a previous video, I showed this where it's actually walking through the cards and how Aces is evaluating those and exactly where they move. This mission that comes next, so actually as you turn the pages here, there's turn 3 of the guided, and then when you get to the next one, you're into the training simulator mission. Now what I found a little bit odd about this is it shows you this map here to how to set it up, but it doesn't actually explain what any of this stuff means until a couple pages later. So it gives you that page, which has the secrets for the waypoints, and then it has a story, and then it tells you, okay, here's what all the icons mean. So just be aware of that like if you look at this map and you're like, what the heck is this? It's actually a little bit farther in the book. So that's where you'll see all that. Anyway, you don't need to worry about that now. I've set it up, so you don't have to worry about that stuff yet until you get this box. So go ahead and read through this, and I'll explain a little, kind of what it's setting up and what the mission's about. So it says for the briefing, it's not clear what we're going to encounter when we sit down on Appalachia. I hope I said that right. So today's simulator mission has some guesses about what the enemy force may be. Your mission is to perform reconnaissance of the abandoned outpost. Your local contact suspects the Jade Falcons are using it as a supply base in the region. If it turns out they're stockpiling ammunition and spares here, your orders are to destroy what supply caches you can find and then pull out. Don't get drawn into a prolonged engagement. We must preserve our forces for the rest of the contract. So I like that paragraph because it's really highlighting what campaign play is all about. You're not just going in to wipe out the enemy force at all costs. You have to think about your force. What is the risk? What is the reward? Like, are the points you're going to earn, or the supply points as they're called, are they worth, losing half of your units just to get them? Or does it make more sense to escape and then move on and fight another day? That's really the heart of campaign play. So it says you made good travel time toward the outpost and met no resistance so far, but if this really is an enemy supply depot, you would have expected a garrison of some kind. As you crest the last hill and overlook the outpost, your sensor contact panel remains quiet. If an enemy is here, it's time to spring the trap. All right, so then it tells you about reconnaissance, and there are no reconnaissance options for this sortie. So later in the campaign, I haven't done any of the other campaign missions, but it tells you in the rule book that you will have options here sometimes. You can spend your supply points to do some reconnaissance, and I suppose you'll learn a little bit more about the battlefield, what units are there, maybe some waypoint information. I'm not sure, but there will be options to spend your points to do some reconnaissance before the battle begins. Waypoint setup. Take the 6 waypoint tokens A through F, and waypoint tokens look like this. They have a question mark on them. On the other side, they have a letter. I'm not going to show it because I don't know what letter is on this, and I don't want to know. But that's what these look like. And so they're scattered across the map, and I'll show you the map in a minute so you can see where those are. You're going to place them at each position shown on the map, which is on the other side of this book. I'll flip it over just a second. And they're going to be touching the edge of buildings. So I assume these waypoints are going to let you know whether the buildings are a supply cache or not, and then you can destroy them if they are. And it says place token G face up on turn 3 of the track. Oops, I didn't do that yet. So I'll have to get token G. I have A through F on the map. I'll have to get token G, and I'm going to place it on the initiative track, which shows turns 1 through 7. And on a specific turn, which is in this case turn 3, you're going to be able to read that waypoint and see what it does. Okay, it gives you a suggestion for a player force. So you will command 2 mercenary lances totaling 308 point value. It tells you exactly what to use. This is coming straight from the Alpha Strike box, which is a requirement for this. For the Aces box, technically you're supposed to have the Alpha Strike box. I actually don't. I have the Counters pack, so I don't have all of these. I don't have the Wraith. So that one I don't have. Anyway, I'm just going to use my own force, which it tells you down here you can do. You can play this training simulator sortie with any force of your choice using any miniatures and stat cards from force packs that you own. That's exactly what I'll be doing. It says you must bring between 5 and 8 units worth a maximum of 300 point value. I have to add mine up, but I don't think I'm going to hit 300. And then it says choose 2 of your units and give each one 2 edge tokens and 1 edge ability of your choice. This is what the edge tokens look like. They're just these little tokens, and then I'll show the cards in a minute, the edge cards, which have special abilities that you can use throughout the mission. On the other side, you have the setup. So here's the map, and again, I'll show my actual map, how I converted this. I do not have a 48 by 48 table. Mine's only 44 wide on the top. I'm actually using a vault, which is smaller. But even if I did have that space, I definitely don't have enough excess space to put my cards and the dice and everything else I'm going to need to run this. Anyway, I converted it. I'll show you what I did. Then it tells you what the opposing force is. They're going to have about 309 point value. I'm substituting this entire lance because, again, I don't have the Pouncer or the Fire Moth because I don't have that box. I just have the Counters pack with the buildings that I'm using. So I just substituted this, and I'm going to hope that I did it okay where it's still going to be a balanced force, but we'll see. I also did it for the sake of the camera because if I had to mix up all these units, they'd be different colors, which would be confusing. So I made sure one side's all one color, one side's all the other color to make it easy. You're going to have the command deck with the Star Captain this time. I think in my other videos I showed the Mech Warrior. Those are the 2 options. You have the Star Captain and the Mech Warrior, so I have the Star Captain deck here. It starts on card A. That's what it tells you here. You're going to start on card A. Okay, so I have that ready to go. The opposing units will deploy as shown, so you're going to see the orange markers here. This is where 1, 2, and 3 will deploy in this list. I'm substituting the Warhawk with an Executioner, a Timberwolf with a Hellbringer, and a Nova with a Summoner. And so those 3 will deploy, the other 2 do not. So we're going to find out what that means as we play the mission. I'm not sure. I don't know if they come on in certain situations or if they will definitely come out. I don't know yet. Our objectives are to cripple enemy mechs. We get 3 victory points if we cripple or destroy at least 3 enemy mechs during the battle. We're going to locate and destroy supply caches. We get 1 victory point for each destroyed cache. It's a max of 4 that we can get for that. Lose no more than 4 units. So I'm going to have 8, so meaning I can't lose more than half of my squad. I get 3 victory points if everything else in my force successfully escapes from a friendly edge and that means these edges here with the BattleTech icon. Over here in the red, that's the Jade Falcon. That's the enemy exit. They can get out this way. Both teams can go this way. This is where I feel like my smaller map might be unbalancing the mission, just because it's going to be way easier to get to these because my map this way is a lot shorter. But anyway, we'll see what happens. The sortie ends after 7 turns or when one side has no remaining units in play. So here's the special rules. We're using force withdrawal, which means all units on both sides are subject to that, which basically means if their weapon amounts are reduced to 0, so if I pull up an Alpha Strike card, so if all these weapons under S, M, and L, if those are reduced to 0, they're in force withdrawal. If the structure, so meaning the red dots, if I've covered half or more of those, so in this case for the Executioner, if I've covered 3 of the red dots, it will be in force withdrawal. There's one more condition for that. Oh, if it's been reduced to less than half of its movement value through critical effects. So if I pull up the card again, there's a move critical that they can get. And if their movement has been reduced, so in this case, the 10, if that's down to like a 4, then this would also be in force withdrawal, which is kind of funny because it would be very hard for it to get off the board when it's in force withdrawal that way. But anyway, those are the criteria. All right, the movement phase, revealing waypoints. When a player-controlled unit ends its movement with line of sight to an unrevealed waypoint within 6 inches. So I have to get within 6 inches of a waypoint and have line of sight to it, so I can't look over a building. It must reveal it even if I'm sprinting. So normally when you're sprinting, you can't do any other actions, but even if I sprint, I can reveal the waypoint. If more than one waypoint meets the criteria, the player chooses which one to reveal. A unit cannot reveal more than one waypoint per turn. You can find all the waypoint entries on the following page of this campaign book, but don't read them until their corresponding tokens are revealed. And finally, supply caches. Some waypoints represent supply caches. These are considered immobile buildings with a construction factor of 4, meaning they take 4 damage to destroy. And when they're destroyed, place the waypoint token beside the turn track to record the number of destroyed supply caches. So once I destroy one, I'm going to take the waypoint next to it, and I'm going to go ahead and set it over here to indicate that I destroyed it. I mentioned the edge abilities. These are just a couple of examples here. So this first one, if I use an edge token, I can cause an attack roll of 11 that hits to also inflict a critical hit. So in other words, normally when you roll a 12, that inflicts a critical hit. If you roll an 11, you can use a token to say, okay, that also does a critical hit. Just a reminder, you are using multiple attack rolls in these missions in the whole campaign. So, if you have a unit that does 4 damage, you might be rolling 4 times. And if any of them are an 11, you can use an edge token to trigger that and have it inflict a critical hit. So those are just some examples. I think I do have that one out. I don't think I have this one, but in any case, I'll just mention them when they come up. So that's it. That's the read through of the mission. I'm going to pause here and I'll zoom out to show you the map, and I'll show you my forces, and then I'll get started. Okay, I lied. I'm going to show you the forces first because it's easier. So here's the enemy force that will be using the Aces card. These are my Jade Falcons. So just to be thematic with the campaign, I figured I'll use the clan mechs I have painted Jade Falcon colors. I don't have a lot of clan mechs because I don't really play with the clans very much. But I do have these ones, so I thought they'd be a good option for this campaign mission. So I have the Executioner A, I have the Mad Dog A, I have the Hellbringer Prime, the Summoner A, and the Shadowcat Prime. So those are going to be the 5 mechs. They total in at about, let me see here, somewhere around 165, about 230 points. So definitely less than the mission was calling for. And I'm going to make sure that my force is also balanced that way. So I'll do that. It's funny, these miniatures never look really that great on the camera. I feel like they look better in person than they do on camera. But anyway, that's that. I don't claim to be like a professional painter or anything, but I think they look pretty good. All right, so I'll show you my Mercenaries force here. All right, here's my Mercenaries all decked out in their desert camo. And I checked the point value. They're about like 250, I think. So they're a little more than the clans. But the clans also have skill 2 pilots. So just by that, they're going to be at a huge advantage. So I think this will be fairly balanced anyway. Who cares? It's just a tutorial. So my force is a Warhammer, and this is the 8R variant, which is a pretty strong one. I have the Victor 9D. I have the Catapult C1, one of my favorites, the classic Catapult. I have the Shadowhawk 2H, and then I have a Demolisher, an LRM carrier, a Condor Hover, and a Manticore. And I wanted to use combined arms because I think that's a big part of this box, is you can use ground vehicles and infantry. I left the infantry out just because I don't think they really made sense for this type of mission. And I didn't want to make it too complicated, but I did want to get combined arms in here with the ground vehicles just to show you how those work. They're a little bit different. Now, the tracked vehicles, so the Manticore, the LRM carrier, and the Demolisher, they all move very similarly to mechs. We don't have any hills on this map, so they're going to move almost exactly the same as mechs do. They can go in all the same terrain. Their movement is halved in the same places. They just can't jump. But the hover vehicle is way different. So the hover cannot go into woods, and they are all the vehicles are subject to motive hits. So when they take it and they take any damage, you roll on a motive hits table to see if their movement is reduced or if they're completely immobilized. Hover tanks get a penalty to that roll. So they're much easier to immobilize, whereas the tracked vehicles don't have any penalty, but they still can have their movement damaged. And they also take critical hits on their own table. And I mentioned before in a couple previous videos that the vehicle critical hits table is different in Aces, and they take a critical hit no matter what. So they're really, I think their value is going to be diminished a little bit in this campaign. But I think that's kind of the direction that BattleTech is headed with the, in the more modern era, where, tanks are fun and they want you to use them, but they also want them to seem like they are in the video games where basically you shoot a laser at them and they explode. That's kind of the impression I'm getting on the direction they're taking with combined arms. So anyway, I will, now I'll zoom out and show you the map for real. Okay, so here is the map setup. And I'll show you the original diagram just for reference so you can see how I did it here. So obviously I'm using the Alpha Strike box buildings just to make things easier for the setup, because it specifically tells you these buildings at this height. And the building heights on the diagram are the height in inches. It took me a while to realize that because it's on a later page, but that's what it means. So I'm using all of those exactly as they're shown in the diagram. And then I made woods templates using my own trees. I just think they look a little better. So these are called templates. So if you're not totally familiar with Alpha Strike yet, when you have a template, you're basically saying that anything inside of the border, if you like wrap a string around your trees, anything inside of that is in the woods. So, even if I like put a mech or a unit here and it's not technically on a tree or anything, it still has cover because it's inside of that template with the woods. So same goes for up here, which is a little bit larger one. So here is the diagram. And so again, this is asking for a 48 by 48 table. So I made a couple of adjustments. Number one, it tells you that I think it says your units can start, the player that is, can start 4 inches from the west edge. Now for my deployment, I'm just putting them all right on the edge just to compensate, because mine is 44 wide instead of 48. So just to compensate for that a bit, I'm just gonna put them on the edge to start. Now, the real issue I have is my map is only 30 inches north to south, and this one's 48. So basically what I did was I just pushed anything that was close to toward the north and south. So like these buildings here and this template, I put them almost on the edge. I did leave a little space here just to honor the fact that they did have room for maneuvering. And so I want to let the units do that if they want to. So I did leave those open a little bit, but I basically just kind of crammed everything in. That's about all I could do. I tried to keep the spacing of the buildings pretty close to the diagram. But for these things really close to the top, I just couldn't do it. So we'll see how it plays out. I don't really think it matters, as I'm thinking through it. It's like, who cares really? The cards are just going to adjust for whatever terrain you have. Maybe there are some cases where it's going to be a problem because of the way the mission works. Like if they have to escape from this side to that side, yeah, my map's not going to work so well. But other than that, I don't think it really makes much of a difference. I placed the waypoints exactly where they're shown on the map. So they're next to buildings. And again, when I get within 6 inches, I can reveal those. I'm going to deploy the first 3 mechs. So the Executioner is going to go just north of this little building right here. The Hellbringer, this is the one that's going to maybe change the things up a little bit because it's here. The original Timberwolf that they want you to use has way more armor, but that's okay. We'll see how it goes. And then the Summoner is going to start behind this far building over here. And the Summoner, of course, has jumping movement, and so does the mech that they wanted you to use there. So it kind of works out that they can maneuver themselves out of there early on. So, okay, that's the setup. I've got everything basically the way I want, or I should say the way the mission wants, not the way I want. And so we're going to go ahead and get into it. I have all my cards. I have the cards for all the mechs, and each of them has their assigned role. So the Executioner is going to be the Juggernaut, which is the same as the Warhawk in the example. The Hellbringer will be the Brawler, just like the Timberwolf in the example. The Summoner is going to be playing the Sniper. And actually that's wrong. It should be the Skirmisher, so maybe I'll flip that. I have the Mad Dog, I think, on the Skirmisher. That's okay. I'll just leave it that way. And then the Shadow Cat is the Striker. So I think I'll just leave them the way they are, and we'll just play through it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and roll for initiative to start things off. And then we'll go ahead and whichever side needs to move, if it's the Ace's side, I'll do that first and show you. And if it's the player side, I'll just move the players and then come back for the Ace's part. Okay, I don't do anything fancy for initiative. I do, during initiative though, you do have to check your commander orders. There are none for card A for the Star Captain. Sometimes they will have a modifier to initiative, so you just want to double check that. So I'm just using the green for the Jade Falcon, the Aces side, and the brown for my Mercenaries, and I'll just roll them together. And the Mercenaries win. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and move the first Aces unit, and then we'll go to the player. Okay, I did switch up the Summoner. I put it on the Skirmisher deck, just to make it consistent with what's in the tutorial setup. Okay, so in initiative for Aces, we're going to move these cards down to get a feel for who's going first. Looks like the Summoner will. Okay, there's no modifiers to this. The commander is not changing anything with who goes first. So we're going to reveal the Summoner because the Aces side is going first, and we're going to go ahead and evaluate this card. I'll try to bring it up close. Hopefully there's not too much reflection, and we'll just go through the conditions. So first it's going to check is the ideal red target, and red in this case is going to say the destroy objective, which they don't have, the lowest TMM, the lowest armor, and the highest point value. And it's saying if it has moved already. That's what this green check means. If it has moved already, none of the player's units have moved, so we're not going to do this. Then it says balanced. If there are any moved units or moved enemies within 30 inches, none of the player units have moved. So it makes sense here. I mean, you would just think this off the top of your head that they would go for cautious because they have no idea what the player is going to do yet. So they're going to target the nearest player unit, which is all of them basically, because they're all just kind of lumped up along the edge there. And it's going to use jumping movement, which also makes sense. It's behind a building. And it's going to try to get line of sight to a target. And sorry, when it has the bullseye in it, I don't know if you can see that, but if it has that bullseye there, that means it actually wants to get line of sight in targeting range, which will be just about anywhere on my map because it's only 44 inches. It's going to try to maintain 12 inches from the target. It can't really do that. It just won't be able to get close enough. It's going to try to occupy woods, which I don't think it can do because the woods are pretty far south. And then it's going to try to get cover versus as many enemies as possible. So those are the things it's going to think about when it's going to move. It's going to basically try to get somebody in targeting range, but also try to get as much cover as possible. It can't really do these two things here. So let me take a look at this and I'll come back and show you where I think it needs to move. Okay, so I think, initially there's a spot up here that I thought it could go. It can't quite reach there to get that cover from the building. This building I think is a little too tall for it to actually shoot over. It's like almost at its head. So I think right over here in this little sniper's nest might be the perfect spot for it. So if it goes here, because it can jump, so it can jump from back here. I measured it out. So the 10 inch, I'm going to double check that, but that's, yeah, that's well within 10 inches there. So it can kind of go here. And I think if I sneak it over just a little bit, so it certainly has multiple units within its range. So if I go back here, it can see all of the units down here. And I'm thinking as they move forward, it's going to have a ton of cover from them, maybe to the point where some of them can't even attack it. And it will certainly at least, I mean, obviously the player can do what they want. They can try to just completely get out of the way here. But chances are it's going to have a target at the end of the turn. But we'll see how that plays out. Okay, so since that unit jumped, I'm going to mark it with a red movement dice, and I'm going to put its TMM there. It normally gets a TMM of 2, but because it jumped, it's going to get a bonus TMM and you get a 3. So I'm just going to put that up there. It's very strongly recommended in the rules and by me that you use dice that have a color for the movement type, so white for ground movement, black for standstill, red for jumping, yellow for sprinting, and you put their TMM on the dice face. And the reason you do that is because a lot of the cards, as you'll see here, when you look at these cards, they're going to reference TMM almost everywhere. And when you're looking for a target, so it's just easier if it's just on the table for you to see. So, okay, I'll go ahead and start moving as the player. And in this scenario, because the enemy has, or I'm sorry, the Aces has 3 and the Mercenary side has 8, we're going to do the front-loaded unequal number of units movement. What am I trying to say here? Algorithm, I don't know, whatever. We're going to use the special rules that are in this this campaign only, which is instead of doing 1, then 2, then 1, then 3, 1, 3, we're going to do it in reverse. We're going to do 3 on the player side. The Aces side did 1, the player does 3. Aces does 1, player does 3. Aces does 1, player does 2. We're going to reverse the way that that's normally done. So I'll go ahead and move 3 player units, and then I'll come back. Okay, nothing too exciting on the player side, which makes sense. I mean, what are they going to do here? They pretty much just have to run forward into the woods and just try to protect themselves from the skill 2 clan pilots. I didn't mention before, but the mercenary side, the player side, starts with skill 4. So yeah, they're going to be missing a lot, and the clans are going to be hitting a lot. So they definitely need to use cover for the wood. So what the way I started, I'm being a little cagey with it, but I'm moving the slow units that, especially the LRM carrier and the catapult that have potential for indirect fire. I moved them up just to the edge of the woods. So they're not in the woods, but they will have cover. And in Alpha Strike, you get 1 bonus, hits. People trying to shoot at you have a 1 penalty for every 2 inches of woods they're shooting through. So I just tried to maximize how much cover they would get, but I didn't go into the woods because I'm not sure what the automa is going to do. And I want to make sure they can move into position if they need to by not being in the woods, because their movement is cut in half for every inch they have to go through of the woods. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. But I basically moved them up so they have cover from the woods no matter what, but they can still use their full movement if they need to get into a different position. So that's what I did there. We're going to switch over now to the automa side, and we're going to go ahead and evaluate another aces card. So the next one to go is going to be the executioner, the Juggernaut. And so I'll take that card. Oh, I'm sorry. What I forgot to do for the summoner once it's done is you flip this card over to the combat side, and then you cover it back up with that unit's card, and then you'll go through the same steps here for the combat. Okay, so Juggernaut. Let's take a look at what the Juggernaut's going to do. So right now the executioner is just kind of out in the open between 2 buildings. So it's going to say if both of these bullet points are true, there is a moved enemy within 24 inches. Let me just quickly measure that LRM carrier, but I'm guessing that's within 24. Yes, it is. So it is within 24 inches. And the second part of this is this unit occupies woods or occupies depth 1 water. It technically doesn't occupy woods, which is good for this unit because otherwise it's going to use standstill, which I don't think is a good idea at all. So it's going to skip aggressive. It's going to move over to balanced. If there are any enemies in 24 inches, which there are, it's going to go ahead and execute balanced. So what we're going to do here on the top part of this second area is we're going to look for a target just like we did before. So it's going to look for a target within 18 inches, which we do not have, but we do have one within 24. If there isn't one in 24, you just keep going until it can find one within targeting range. But there is one in 24, so we stop there. There is only 1 unit, I think. I'm going to measure the catapult here. The catapult is real close, but not quite in 24. It's about 25. So we basically can skip the rest of this because there's only 1 target. It doesn't matter if it's the ideal one. There is only 1. So it's going to now use ground movement. It's going to try to occupy woods or depth on water. It can't do that. It's going to try to get cover versus as many enemies as possible, and it's going to try to move closer to the target. Those are its instructions. So I've kind of gone through this scenario before when I made the tutorial video, but basically it's going to attempt to get itself into position around this building, I think. I suppose it could go over this way and just try to, if it went over to here, it could just shoot over that building at the LRM carrier. So that's an option. The problem with that is it makes it an easy target for the player because now the player can easily get into shooting range there into the woods with cover of its own and target at it. So, I mean, that would be an option. It doesn't really get much closer to the player's unit. So to me, because the executioner, I think, has 10 movement, which it does, I feel like it wants to get into this building here and just keep its line of sight with the LRM carrier. Just hug this building enough that it can see the LRM carrier, but it's not going to be in line of sight of the other units. I mean, they can get in line of sight, of course, but this will protect it as best as possible. I'm going to just double check those line of sights and decide if that's where it should go. Okay, so this was a tricky one because I wanted to move the executioner back a little bit to protect it from the other units, but if I did that, I couldn't see the LRM carrier anymore. So I tucked it about halfway, and it can definitely see their LRM carrier. I mean, it's obviously through the trees, but it can see it. And the LRM carrier is going to have this corner of the building here covering most of its left side. So it will have partial cover. The player units could get over here and get it into clear line of sight. And they, it wouldn't have cover against those, but I felt like in the spirit of the card, which is trying to get closer to the player, obviously trying to get cover, but it's trying to get closer to the player. Over here just felt kind of cheap. It's like, it's not really moving any closer. So I moved it this. I felt like this was better. I think it's going to be hard for me to get any other units into like perfect line of sight because the Demolisher is so slow. And the Victor, I don't think I really want to move it that way. So anyway, I think that's the ideal spot for this. So, put in the comments if you disagree, but I think that's where we go. So, okay, I'm going to move 3 more player units and I'll be right back. Okay, so another pretty straightforward movement. The Manticore just moved right in front of this Warhammer. It actually did go into the woods. I feel like that it's okay for that one to go in the woods. So I put it there. So they'll all be, they'll be really close in those woods up there. The Victor I moved to the edge of this woods. It is in the woods template, but I left it on the edge so it can move because the Victor's more mobile. So I do want it to be able to use its jump jets and try to maneuver and like get behind something. That's what I would ideally like to do. And the Demolisher I did move up that way. It could get the Executioner in full line of sight. So technically the Executioner still has cover though from the trees. So it is a clear shot, but yeah, that Demolisher, who knows? It could get wrecked by that Executioner if it picks that as the target. The Victor maybe can be seen by the Executioner. It's pretty close, but it would also get partial cover from this building edge, so it should be fairly well protected. But we'll see what happens during combat. Okay, so now we're going to get into the Hellbringer. I did want to mention very quickly about facing. I don't think I talked about this when I was moving the Aces units, but the instructions are pretty obvious for facing. I think they're kind of intuitive, I should say, that when you are done with movement, the facing is going to obviously have the target it selected during movement in its firing arc. Is going to try to make sure there are no enemies in its rear firing arc, which is the kind of like the triangle that goes out from the back hex side, like that. And it's going to try to have every player unit on the board in its firing arc if possible. In this first turn, it's very easy to do that. So, obviously I moved both of these. They're just facing this side of the board. They can see everything, where I should say their firing arc is with everything in it. And there's nothing in their rear. So, everything's good. And even though the Summoner couldn't really get a target, there's like really no specific target for it. I just picked one of the ones on this side of the board, and it is facing that way. So anyway, just wanted to quickly touch on facing. Okay, time to move the Hellbringer. So I will finish my movement for the Executioner. So put the combat side up and cover it, and then we'll do the Hellbringer, which is acting as the Brawler. So let's go ahead and execute this card. So for aggressive, it's going to look for any moved enemies in 18 inches. So let me quickly measure that and see. I'm thinking it could be close to the Manticore. No, it is outside 18 inches. Okay, so it's not going to do aggressive movement. If there are any enemies in 30 inches, yes, there are. It's going to look for 18 inches first, then it's going to go to 24 inches. There's going to be a lot in 24. It's going to have if I measure here, it's going to have it to the Manticore, to the Warhammer, to the Catapult. Those 3 are all within 24 inches. So in that case, then what we're going to do is we're going to find a target we can attack that is part of the yellow ideal, the ideal target. So we're going to go to our captain or our commander card, and it's going to look for the unit with the most armor. So I'm going to have to reference those cards. And the Catapult has 5, the Warhammer has 7, and the Manticore has 6. So it's going to be targeting the Warhammer. That's what it's going to go after. That makes sense because the Hellbringer's kind of modeled after the Warhammer. So there you go. Okay, so that helped resolve it. So we're going to be moving with relation to the Warhammer, which is fine because they're all kind of in the same place. So it's going to use ground movement. Make sure no enemies are within 12 inches. That'll be no problem. An ally within 6 inches. Okay, so it's actually going to almost move a little bit backwards. Okay, so it's going to move towards, let me move the camera here. It's going to head over toward the summoner behind that building. That's where it's going to try to move, I think. Going to head back that way. Okay, so it's definitely going to kind of go in this area, but it wants to move closer to the target. Okay, so what we do when that happens is we stop it too, because we can't do both of these, right? We can't have an ally within 6 inches, but also move closer to the target, because I think the Hellbringer's already outside of 6 inches. Oh boy, it's just, yeah, it's about 6.5 or 7 inches, 6, 7. So you can tell I have kids. So we're gonna not do 3. So we're gonna go no enemies within 12 inches, that's easy, and then an ally within 6 inches. So we're not gonna worry about moving closer to the target in this case. So that's gonna leave us with kind of this general area here. I think it's pretty obvious I'd position it somewhere in this range to get the partial cover. So any units firing at it are gonna have to add a partial cover modifier, because these buildings are gonna cover at least half of the unit. So, or somewhere around there. So I think I'm just gonna basically figure out where it's, this is interesting behavior from a brawler, I have to say, but it's, yeah, so within 6 inches is gonna put it right around where it is. It could move a little forward, so I'm gonna kind of put it right about there, I think. I think this is like too much. I don't think even it can shoot over. It's probably gonna block its own line of sight. So I think it'd be better to get it in front of that. So if I do, yeah, it could actually move just slightly forward. So I think I'm gonna put it right there. I'm checking out the other, see the problem with this movement is it's gonna open itself up to the 2 player units that have not moved yet. They could get into a better position. So I think actually I got to keep the Warhammer in range. So I think I might move it there. Let me double check the Warhammer. Yeah, that's no problem. They can see it, but I think that will protect it no matter where the Shadowhawk and the Condor move. I think they'll be able to, it'll still have partial cover to those. Okay, so I think that's where I'm gonna put that. Again, let me know in the comments if you disagree. I'm still learning this, you're learning along with me. So maybe, or maybe you're an expert trying to see if I'm doing a good job. All right, so I flip that to combat, put that up, and then I'm gonna go ahead and move the last 2 player units, and then we'll go ahead and get into our first round of combat. But before I do that, gotta put that on there. Okay, let me move the players. All right, you're seeing the magic of initiative in action. So because I was able to see all of the aces moves first, I was able to get the Condor right up pretty close to this building where the Executioner can't see it. I was thinking about zipping this way and just using the TMM to avoid damage, but the problem is I think that Hellbringer would still be hitting it on 7s, which if it even takes 1 damage, it's a pretty good chance it's gonna get a motive hit. So I thought better of it and moved it up there. I'm gonna try to get the Condor behind the automa, kind of because I just want to see what will happen, how it changes things, but also just strategically, that's what I brought it for. It's fast, it can get behind enemy lines, and I want to use that as a distraction from the big hitters like the Demolisher and the Victor and the Warhammer, who can then hopefully move in and do some damage. Unfortunately for the Shadowhawk, I couldn't figure out a good place to get them, so I just kind of moved them up just like the other ones and put them right by the woods here just to give them a little bit of coverage. Again, I kept them out of the woods, so I'm hoping I can use that to speed along this way if I need to on the next round, depending on what exactly happens. Now, I took a pause here because I had to go check out some of the rules about what's going on. So first of all, the Condor here is within 6 inches of this waypoint, so I do need to reveal this waypoint at this time, at the end of movement, and it's an E. Now, I was checking the rules to see just exactly how this all worked, and I have to read the passage, but if this is a supply cache, I was a little bit confused on, am I targeting the building as a -4 modifier, as an immobile target, or am I targeting this actual token? And it's not 100% clear in the rules, so just to kind of reread it here, it says, some waypoints represent supply caches. These are considered immobile buildings with a CF of 4. But it says these. So I take that to mean the token is considered an immobile building with a construction factor of 4. They can take 4 damage before being destroyed. When destroyed, place the waypoint token beside the turn track. So I'm assuming that the attack has to happen on the waypoint itself, and it gives you instructions in the rules that when you're talking about cardboard tokens, you need to have line of sight to the token itself. So, for these, if these end up being supply caches, these are easy for me. But, this one's going to be really hard. This one might be okay. This one almost impossible, and this one almost impossible. This one, I basically am going to have to get a unit here to see it. Same for this one. So that's the way I'm going to play it. I've read the rules a couple times. I thought it was just going to say like this building here, whatever. That's what you're attacking. But apparently you're attacking the token based on the rules as they're written. It's not 100% clear. I would like them to make that much more clear in these rules. So let's go ahead and move on, and let's read what this waypoint is exactly. So this is letter E. And letter E says, you spy a pile of cargo containers nestled against the side of a building, draped with a tarp blowing loosely in the constant wind. This waypoint represents a supply cache. Leave it in play face up. Okay, so that means we have our first supply cache, and this has a construction factor of 4. That means it'll take 4 damage before it's destroyed. Let's get into combat. So we're going to do the same thing we did in initiative. We're going to pull these cards down. They're all going to just have the same numbers they had on the other side. So these numbers don't change from the other side of the card for movement. All of the units for the aces side are going to fire first, and then we'll go to the player side and they will fire. So first in initiative order is the summoner, and you are now going to go through these cards in much the same way you did the movement cards. So you're going to have a list of priorities here. Sometimes they're going to reference the commander card, and you're going to have to go to that. So we'll just go through these and figure out where this unit wants to target. So it's going to look for a target within 6 inches. And this is the summoner. It obviously has nothing within 6 inches here. It's going to go out to 24 inches beyond that. So I'm going to do a quick measurement to the units over here in the woods and just see if they're within 24 inches or not. Okay, so the Manticore, I'm going right to the front of the text. It is actually outside of 24 inches, so that's going to mean it will go, it doesn't have a target that it can see within 24 inches, so it's just going to go out as far as it can go to find a target. So it doesn't stop at 24, it will just go as far as it needs to. It's just prioritizing targets in those ranges. Then it's going to try to hit the target's rear, which it can't do, and then it's going to go to the red command list. So the red command list is going to look at a destroy objective, which we don't have for this Aces Force, the lowest TMM. So that was going to narrow it down to the Manticore and the Warhammer and the Catapult, if they can have line of sight to that summoner. And then it's going to look for lowest armor, which I think is going to be the Manticore, which has 6. Nope, the Catapult has 5. And the Victor has 7. So it's going to try the Catapult first. If it can see it, I'm going to have to measure those woods. Okay, let's take a look. So the Warhammer to the actually, I don't care about the Warhammer, sorry. Catapult to the Summoner, yeah, I would say that's going through maybe 4 inches. So yeah, so that's a valid target right there. It's going to be in long range, so that's who it's going to go after. So because of the commander card that looks for the lowest amount of armor, it's going to go for the Catapult. So it's going to have so the calculation of the target number is for the automa is exactly the same as it is normally. So the summoner is going to have a base 2 skill for being a clan. It's going to get a +2 for jumping, so we're at a 4. It is Team M of 1 for the Catapult, so we're at a 5. It's going to go through 4 inches of woods, which is just a straight +1, so that's going to be 6, and it's going to be long range, so it's going to be looking for 10s. And in this game, I mentioned you are doing multiple attack rolls, so the way I'm going to roll this up is I'm just going to get multiple paired colored dice to represent each point of damage. And from long range, the summoner does 3 points of damage, which is pretty good. 3 points of damage from there. Okay, so it's going to attack the Catapult, and it needs 10s. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll these, and we'll see what happens. It missed everything. Yep, missed everything. So we got an 8, an 8, and a 5. So it missed everything on that one. Okay, so once you're done with the combat, you take the combat card, you put it at the bottom, and you cover it up with the unit card, and then you're ready to go for initiative. I'll go ahead and I'll move this out of the way since that one's done. Okay, so next in initiative order is the Executioner. So let's see what the Executioner will look at. Now, when it was moving, it was targeting the LRM carrier, but we'll see if it actually ends up targeting that. Okay, so it is looking for a target within 24 inches, and I can confidently say the Victor is within 24. I know that. I think they all are. Yes, they all are within 24 inches. So next, it's going to just go to the yellow command list. So obviously, it can see the three. I'm sorry, I need to move the camera here. So it can see the three that are up here in the woods. But we're going to, and so they're all within 24 inches. They're all valid targets. So it's going to look at the yellow command list next. That's what it wants to see to make its determination. So it's going to be looking for the most armor. So most armor definitely would be the Victor. The Victor has 7. Demolisher has 5, and the LRM carrier only has 2. So it would try to target the Victor in this situation. I'm going to double check line of sight to see if it can actually hit the Victor. I'm going to give that one a yes, but I think the Victor's getting partial cover from that building as well. So the Executioner wanted to use the partial cover from the LRM carrier, but I think it also gave the Victor some partial cover. So, but yeah, I think that's valid line of sight right there. Okay, the Executioner does a whopping 5 damage from medium range. So I have 5 pairs of colored dice here. And so now we're going to calculate the target number just like we did before. So this pilot has a skill of 2. The Victor has a TMM of 1. It's firing through maybe 3 inches of wood, so it's going to get an extra 1, so that's 4. This building is going to give it a little partial cover for 5, and it's going to have a medium range for 7. Now, one thing I forgot to do, or I forgot to mention when I was doing the summoner attack, is you always check this overheat once you have the target number. Now, in the case of the summoner, it didn't matter. It was a TN of 10. And so it says for TN 9 or more, and this unit has any heat, which it didn't. So it wasn't going to matter for the summoners. The target number was too high. And you'll often see that when the target number is high, the automa is going to check if it should not attack and cool off. So if it has any heat, it'll try to get rid of that when it's a low chance of hitting. Okay, so in this case, we have a target number of 7. So we're going to check the overheat rules again on this card. And in this case, it's looking for TN 4 or less, TN 6 or less, and then TN 10 or more, again, for reducing heat. But we're not in 4 or 6, we're at 7. So the overheat rules will not apply. So I'm going to go ahead and roll 5 dice, and we're looking for 7s. I'll just bring this up a little closer. And that looks like a lot of hits. That looks like 5 hits right there. Okay, so there we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ouch. Okay, that's unfortunate because the Victor was my my hope there to get in close and start doing some damage, but it is what it is. Okay, so we'll move back here. We'll go through our same admin here where the combat card is going to go to the bottom, put the unit card back on top, and then we'll go ahead to the Hellbringer, which is going to be the interesting one in terms of line of sight because I don't think it has line of sight to the Catapult or Warhammer just because of how deep the woods are here in this template. Okay, so this one's looking for a target within 6 inches, then a target within 24. So I know because of the summoner, these are all going to be within 24 inches. And then it's also going to look at the yellow list. Now, it wants most armor, which would be the Warhammer. However, if I measure this, I'm going to measure again here. Yep, that's 6 inches of woods. So the Catapult and Warhammer are out of range, or out of line of sight, so those aren't going to work. So we're going to go for most armor first. And the Manticore has 6, and the Shadowhawk has 5. So it's going to target the Shadowhawk. That will be its target for this round. Okay, so the Shadowhawk is, it does have cover, so it's going to be a 2 for the TMM, so that's 4, a 5 for the partial cover, and then medium range for 7. So we have 7s again here. Let's check the overheat. It's looking for a TN 8 or less, and the overheat might let the unit hit the target structure, use up to 1 overheat. So the Hellbringer, at least this variant, does 4 damage at medium range. If I used overheat of 1, it has potential for overheat of 3. But if I only used 1, I could not get into the structure. That would actually, 5 is enough to take all its armor away, so it will not use overheat in this case. So let me go ahead and get, it's only going to use 4 for this round. So let's roll 4. We're rolling on 7s again. Here we go. And we get 2 hits. Ooh, we actually rolled a 12. That's going to be a critical hit, or at least a critical attempt. And this one also hits, so that's 2 points to the Shadowhawk, and then it has a critical chance. 2 damage on that. There's 2 damage. And then we're going to roll for a critical hit. So if you're not familiar with Alpha Strike, you roll a roll of 12 gives you a what's called a through armor critical. So you roll on the critical hits table, and you're going to see if there's any additional damage that's going to be done to this unit. So let's roll. That is a 6. I believe that's a weapon hit. I'm going to consult the quick reference guide and just double check that. But a roll of 6 is a weapon hit. So what that's going to do is for the Shadowhawk, that's going to reduce its damage by 1. So each of these ranges now, so this is going to be a fairly useless mech at this point. It can only do 1 damage from short and medium, and it can do 0 at long range. So that's unfortunate. So not going so well for the mercenaries so far. Okay, so final step, I'm gonna put the combat card on the bottom, put the unit card on top, and the aces side is done with shooting. So now we're gonna get some numbers for the mercenary side, and I'll just come back and roll those. Okay, here we have half of our squad eyeing down that Hellbringer that does have partial cover. So does the Summoner, so the Hellbringer is definitely the better target here. They're eyeing down the Hellbringer. However, the Catapult and Warhammer got themselves too far behind the woods, so they're not going to be able to attack it. However, they can attack the Waypoint. So the Warhammer is going to try to shoot at it, so is the Catapult, because they can't fire at the Hellbringer. Well, I'm going to see if the Warhammer kills it, because then the Catapult, I think, obviously can shoot at the Summoner, because it shot at the Catapult. So the Warhammer needs 3s to hit that Waypoint, so does the Catapult if it does it. The Manicore and Shadowhawk are going to fire at the Hellbringer. The Manicore is in the woods, so it can, and it doesn't really, it's not really shooting through woods, I don't think, for this. So it's going to have a 9, and the Shadowhawk's going to have a 10. So I'll go ahead and roll those up. Warhammer's going to start by firing at the Waypoint E. It needs 3s. If it misses this, I may as well just quit the mission. And it hits everything. Perfect. So I destroy this Waypoint. And so it just says when you destroy it, you go ahead, or whatever. When you deal 4 damage, you go ahead and move it over by the initiative tracker, and that's going to count towards something at the end of the game. I guess I'm assuming you get points. I don't think you get any supply points because this mission doesn't really factor into the campaign. But presumably you'll get some sort of score for this. Okay, I'm going to roll up the Manicore and the Shadowhawk first because I'm going to have to redo the Catapult's numbers. But the Manicore needs 9s to hit the Hellbringer. And the Manicore does 3 damage at medium range. So roll those up. And whoa, did a good job. And I have, no, sorry. I was going to say, I have an edge card for if you roll an 11, but it's not on the Manicore. I have them on the Victor and the Warhammer. So yeah, so Hellbringer's going to take 2 points of damage. That was a pretty good shot. I hope this bodes well for the other units. Okay, 2 pips. And the Shadowhawk's going to make a similar attempt, and it only does, that's at medium range, sorry. But for this turn, it still does 2 points of damage because that weapon hit doesn't take effect until next round. So it's going to need 10s. Ooh, almost got one, but it did not. Okay, so the Catapult's going to go ahead and shoot at the Summoner. This is going to be an almost impossible shot, I think. So it's going to have a 4 for its skill. I'm going to zoom out here so we can see the Summoner. A 4 for its skill. A +3 for the Summoner's movement. +1 for partial cover. So we're at 8 already. It has woods to shoot through. Yeah, it can't hit. It's going to be too much. So the Catapult's just going to go ahead and skip shooting this round, but that's okay. We destroyed one of the supply caches, so that's a pretty good result. Okay, we're going to go up to the northwest part of the board, and we're going to see what kind of shooting is going on there. Okay, here we go. We got this crew of hotshots. They're eyeing down the Executioner. And the Victor and the LRM carrier have pretty tough shots. They're going to be on 10s because they're shooting through woods and partial cover. The Demolisher is going to have a 9 because it does not have the partial cover from the building. It was able to get just to the left of it to not need that partial cover. So we got 2 shooting on 9s and 1 shooting on, 2 shooting on 10s, 1 shooting on a 9. Let's go ahead and roll those up. All right, Victor's gonna go first. It does 4 points of damage. It does have the edge ability to increase its damage rating by 1 by spending an edge token, but seems kind of stupid because it's shooting on 10. It's probably not a good use of that ability. So yeah, so I'm gonna roll 4. It needs 10s to hit anything. Ooh, it hits a 12. All right, I'm hot today. I'm rolling 12s. That's the only thing that hits, but I will take that. Okay, so the Executioner is going to take 1 hit of damage. Let me get the card there. So we're gonna mark that. And then I'm gonna roll 1 critical hit. Let's see what we get here. That's a 7. I think that's what is that, a movement hit? Let's pull up the chart here. I'm pretty sure that's a movement hit. That is, yeah, that's an MP hit. So that's not good for the Executioner because Clan's advantage is really its speed. So that's gonna put its movement at half, which is huge. Because, sorry, that doesn't affect jumping. Oops, let's get that out of there. So that's gonna affect it. It's down to 5 inches of ground movement. Whoa. So what I do for that, when that happens, is I mark it with a purple dice. And so I'm just gonna put a 3 on that because that's kind of like in between 2 and 3, units of movement reduced. Wow. Huge shot by the Victor. Amazing. Okay, let's go on to the Demolisher. I'll do the Demolisher next just because it also uses 4 dice. Of course, I used one of my purple to mark that. Okay, so it does 4 damage for medium range. This one needs 9s. Oh my God. I did it again. Okay, it's the only thing that hits. It almost hit the pink one, but that's the only thing that hits. But wow, it's gonna do another critical hit. Holy cow, this is not how I saw this going. But I'll take it. Okay, so that's another pip, and we're gonna roll another critical hit. That is a 9. That unfortunately doesn't do anything on the Mech critical hit table. So that's a blank, and we will go into the LRM carrier, which does 3 damage from medium range, but it needs 10s. Oh my God, I was gonna say, if I roll another 12, I was gonna go maybe play the lottery or something. Okay, so it also hits 1. So wow, all 3 of these hit 1. That's pretty good. This is way better than I thought they were gonna do, given the numbers. So wow, nice. Okay, so that's that. That takes care of all the combat for round 1. What we do at the end of round 1 is take the commander card and we flip it over. And we're gonna check for any special commands. So if you had emplacements like turrets anywhere on the map, if you had any artillery units, or if you had any BSP cards, those are battlefield support, there are orders up here on how to use them, actually really just for the battlefield support, because those are cards you can spend. We don't have any of these things, so we're not gonna do it. But you can see, for example, if you had BSP cards like a strike, like an arrow strike, it would just tell you don't use these unless you can hit the target structure. So it just kind of gives you general guidelines for how to use that. Down at the bottom here, we do the strategy decision for the next round. So we see if we're gonna take a different commander card. So the first one's always, is the mission over? It's not, of course. D says if there is an enemy in one of your unit's rear, there is not. If there are any enemies with no armor, the Victor got somewhat close, but it did still hang on with some armor. And it says if you lost more point value worth of units in this, it's kind of a weird way to say that, but basically if the automa lost more point value than the mercenaries did or the player did, you would take a different card, but none of those are true, so we're just gonna hang on to card A again for round 2, and I will roll initiative. Now what happens is, I'm gonna move this up. There's waypoint G, by the way. In the rules, just for this set, just for the Aces set during the campaign, the team that won initiative has a -2 modifier to their roll. So the mercenaries, the brown dice on this roll, are gonna have a -2. So this is just trying to make sure that both sides are gonna have initiative at some point, or at least, it's not guaranteed, but they're hoping that's what will happen. So go ahead and roll those. And the Aces won anyway, didn't matter about the -2. So the Aces are gonna win initiative. So I flip that over to red, and for round 2, the player is gonna have to move first. So I'm going to go ahead and move 3 units for the player, and then I'll come back and do the Aces movement again. All right, let's take a look at what happened here. Real quick though, I just wanna say I put the Aces cards here and I moved them down just a bit for the initiative order. Obviously, we already used Commander card A, which has no special orders, so there's nothing for me to do in the initiative round. Again, sometimes there will be an order that says put a go first or go last token on it, but that's not the case here. So really simple movement because I don't know what the aces are going to do yet. So I have to wait, and I want to do the most basic moves first. So I just move the Demolisher into the woods. I move the LRM Carrier into the woods. I don't really have any other options with those units, so I'm just going to move them up. They're probably not going to last too long. And the Catapult, I jumped forward in the woods. I am not super confident that these units are going to last long, given how much damage the clans do. So I just wanted to jump and get its TMM up. Also made it easier. I was able to get farther into the woods. Since they only give you one modifier no matter what, no matter how deep you are in them, I may as well just hang on the edge of them. So I'm going to go there. And okay, so now the aces are going to be up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of just analyze this card real quick, and then I'll just come back and explain it, because I just don't want to rack up tons of time with me putzing around with these cards. So I'll be right back. Okay, I take it back. I wasn't going to be putzing around because this card is basically the easiest thing ever. So it says, if both bullets are true, there is an enemy. So this is the Executioner, sorry. There is a moved enemy within 24 inches and in your current targeting range. That's true. The Demolisher is inside of the Executioner's targeting range, and it's inside of 24 inches. And this unit occupies woods or occupies depth 1 water. Yep, it occupies woods. Okay, stand still. All right, I'm not sure that's what I would do, but okay, that's fine. So stand still is gonna be, I'm gonna mark it with a black dice. And by the way, I'm realizing I forgot to remove all the movement dice, but I'll do that now. So I'm gonna mark it with a black 6 just to indicate it is standing still. Ooh, I don't know about that, but okay, that's fine. That's an interesting move. I'm gonna move 3 more player units, and then I'll come back for the next, which will be the Summoner. Okay, pretty simple movement again, because I'm really, well, actually not totally simple, but I'm waiting with my fast movers to see what at least 2 of the aces do. So the Victor made the most exciting move where it jumped out of the woods and got here. Since that Executioner already moved and it just stood still, I figured, why not try to get it close, give it I mean, it's gonna have the same modifier basically than sitting in the woods. And I'm also getting the partial cover from the building. It's getting partial cover, of course, as well. That's fine, I'll give it to him. And I'll take a chance. I don't know, I might get wiped out here with a big shot, but I figure this is what I brought the Victor for, to get in close and do some serious damage. And so let's do it. The Manticore moved to the front of the woods. The Warhammer moved just slightly into the woods. They're both occupying now, and they should be able to shoot out depending on what the aces do. And it'll be able to shoot anyway. That's only like 4 inches of woods. Yeah, so there's not much I can do with them. They don't move fast enough to get to this waypoint. And why would I put them out in the open? That doesn't make any sense. So we'll see what the Summoner does now. I'll be right back. Okay, Summoners is relatively easy as well. It's going to use Balanced because it can't move behind a unit right now. So if there are any moved units in 30 inches, it has several, but the Victor and the Condor are both there. Actually, just the Victor, because the Victor moved. It's going to look for targets at 14 inches and 22. So the target is, so the Victor and the Condor are both 22 inches away. It's looking for the ideal red target, which is looking at the least armor. It's looking at first the lowest TMM and the least armor. This has a potential of 3, so the Victor would qualify either way. It's going to try to use jumping or ground movement to occupy woods. It wouldn't do that because it needs to get on the Victor. It's going to try to get cover versus as many enemies as possible, targeting to at least 1 moved enemy and an ally within 6 inches. But again, it's keying on the Victor, so to me, I already kind of measured this out, but it can move 10 inches in ground, which I think would be the better move, and it can get right there. And I think that's the move it's going to make, is just try to go here with some cover, and it can shoot the Victor, and the Victor's going to have partial cover. If anything's going to have partial cover if they try to attack the Summoner. So I'm just going to scooch it in just a little bit, and it's going to get a TMM of 2 because clan mechs are fast. Okay, I'll move the final 2 player units. That move, I think, yeah, unfortunately, I wish the Hellbringer had gone first or second, because then I could figure out what I wanted to do. If this, if it left this side of the field, I could move these units a little better, but it didn't. Okay, things worked out well for the Mercenaries in movement, at least. Sorry, hold on, let me get this for the Summoner over. The Shadowhawk ran out of the woods down to here. I was able to get just within 6 inches of this waypoint, so I'm gonna go ahead and flip that over. That's waypoint D. And then the Condor was able to get behind the summoner's line of sight, or sorry, it's front-facing arc. It had just enough movement to get here, and I was able to stay within 6 inches of this waypoint, so I can reveal that. Of course, this one's gonna be, that's gonna be a tough one if that turns out to be a cache. So we will see. Let's take a look. I'm gonna go ahead and read these now before I forget. So waypoint, let's start here. Waypoint D, and sorry, I don't even know if you could see my Shadowhawk. There it is. Sorry, Shadowhawk ran down here. It was within 6 inches, just barely. It was like 5.75 inches away. Okay, so waypoint D, and by the way, I'm not showing these because I might not see all the waypoints, so I just want to leave them as a partial surprise. So waypoint D down here says, you spot a row of low cylindrical fuel tanks here, probably still serviceable despite the rust. Judging by their density on mag scan, they're full of fuel. This waypoint represents a supply cache. Leave it in play face up. Okay, there we go. And then for waypoint A, it says, you catch a glint of sunlight from one of the nearby buildings. Your IR scan picks up the signature of a lone infantryman in a window, no doubt a spotter, relaying targeting data to the enemy mechs. Oh God. Before you can react, the heat signature fades back into the building. Reduce your unit's TMM by 1 until the end phase. Oh, that's not good. We'll hope the Hellbringer doesn't decide to target it. Sorry, and that's the front facing there. Okay. It says, place this waypoint token on your unit card as a reminder. Okay, so this is a nothing. So there you go. I got some surprises in here for you. Yeah, I'll throw that there even though I just marked it with my dice anyway. Discard it during the end phase, so yeah. That was a waste. Should have gone for one of these other ones, I guess. But the only other one I could have gone was right there, and I didn't want to be right in firing range for that summoner, so that's what I did. Okay, so let's do the Hellbringer. I'll be right back and kind of explain the movement. Okay, this is an interesting one. It can't do the first one. The ideal red would probably be the Victor or the LRM carrier. It can't, they're not within 10 inches, so it can't do anything with those. If there are at least 3 enemies in line of sight and 24 inches away, those would be these 3 here in the woods. It says to target the nearest, which is fine, but then it says use jumping movement, which the Hellbringer doesn't have. So I'm going to skip that one, which I think works out better for it. I'm going to go to the cautious movement, which says use ground or jump movement. The target is the nearest, which would be the Shadowhawk, and it's going to try to get cover versus the nearest moved player unit. And in the fewest enemy lines of sight. I feel like that is going to be tricky, but I think it can. Oh, and you know what? Hold on, sorry. I'm just realizing I flipped the wrong card here. My summoner card's over here. Sorry. Got to keep these cards in the right place. But I think if it has 10 movement and it can get here, that would be the ideal spot for it. The only thing I worry about is it's kind of putting all its eggs in one basket here at the north. So yeah, it can get right here, which would be just about the perfect place for it. I say that's where I would put it if it were me. The Condor can't, nothing else, literally nothing else can see it except the Shadowhawk. So that's going to basically neuter the southwestern portion of my forces except the Shadowhawk, which I think that's in 24 inches, so it can do 1 damage, but that's it. That's all it can do. So it's really up to the north on this round, and that, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Okay, we're going to get into combat now, starting with the player. Okay, we'll do the easy one first. Warhammer's going to shoot at this waypoint. It has line of sight, obviously. It does 4 damage at medium range, and it's 4 plus 2 minus 4, which is 2, so they're automatic hits. So we destroy this waypoint, and we get a second supply cache down. The Manticore and the Catapult can't do anything, so they're just going to skip this turn. So we're going to go into the Shadowhawk versus the Hellbringer. An epic battle for 1 point of damage. Okay, so the Shadowhawk has 4. It's medium range to the Hellbringer, which has a TMM of 2. So this is going to be 4, 5, 6, and 7 for the partial cover. So it needs to roll a 7. It can only do 1 point of damage because of that weapon hit. Yeah, so it can only do the 1 point of damage. And it misses. Way to go. Okay, but at least it revealed the waypoint. You know, it did something. All right, I'm going to go up to the north now. All right, here's how things are looking over here. Kind of similar to the last round. But I think everything's going to key in on that Executioner. The Hellbringer hit itself just enough that you really can't see much of the miniature, so the Demolisher can't get to it. So yeah, they're all going to just key on that Executioner. It's already damaged, so why not try to give it more of a pounding? It also has no modifier, except for the partial cover on the Victor and the LRM carrier. So yeah, so we'll go with that. And then way over here, let's do a cool zoom. We've got the Condor who's going to fire at the Summoner. Unfortunately, it can't fire at a weapon cache. Now I'm looking at that other waypoint. I'm wondering, was that close enough to do that one? Maybe that was a supply cache. Anyway, we didn't know. So yeah, it's just going to fire at the Summoner there. All right, let's start with the Condor, which is going to rotate its turret. I actually don't think it needs to. Just kidding. But it's an easy one because it's just a 4 skill plus a 2 TMM. And it's not hitting in the rear arc. It's not all the way into that the rear side for damage. So it's just 2 points. And it needs, 6s. Gets both of them. So Summoner's going to take 2 points of damage. I'm going to spill my dice tray. Oops. Okay, so that one is good for the Condor. Okay, the Victor needs 9s. I'm not totally confident the Victors are going to survive this round, so I'm just going to say, screw it. Let's use the edge token. So I'm going to go ahead and use this edge token here. I'm going to spend this. I'm going to use the Assassin, which allows me to increase my damage rating by 1, in addition to attacking from the rear, which I'm not doing. But I'll go ahead and spend that edge token. And so I'll add another dice to my collection, and I'm going to try to do 5 points of damage. It needs 9s because of the jumping and the partial cover, and unfortunately, it's still in medium range. Ooh, that's not good. Oh, actually, not bad. Not bad. It could be worse. So I got 2 points. I was hoping that one hit, but it did not. So that's going to be 2 points of damage to the Executioner, which now is down to 4 pips of damage. And sorry, I meant 4 pips of armor. Okay, LRM carrier is going to go next. It has, I already calculated this as a 7, so it has 4. It has 4 for the, I guess it has 1 for the woods. Okay, it's an 8. So it has 4, 5, 6 for the partial cover, and then 7, 8 for the range. I guess I didn't quite get it close enough to the edge there. So it does 3 points of damage, needs 8s. And it gets absolutely nothing. Okay, Demolisher needs, I think, just a 6. It has clear line of sight. It's on the edge of that woods template. It just needs 6s. And it, it does 4 damage. Needs 6s. Oh my god, not good. Oh yeah, actually, never mind. Sorry, that is good. Sometimes when those dice get next to each other, you think they're paired, but they're not. But it did 3 points of damage. Yeah, 3 points. Okay, so that puts the Executioner down to 1 pip of armor remaining, which is good. Unless this waypoint on turn 3 is going to bring the 2 other units on the board, and then I might just have to run for my life. But okay, we're going to go into combat for the aces now. Okay, Executioner goes first. It's real simple. We're just going to use the red targeting list, which is looking at lowest TMM, which is the Manticore the Demolisher and the LRM carrier up here. And then it goes for lowest armor, which is the LRM carrier, which only has 2. The Victor could have been a target, but it's the TMM's higher. So good thing I jumped with the Victor. But I don't think this LRM carrier is going to survive. So let's see, it's going to be a 2 for skill, but a -1 because it stood still. So that's a 1. It's going to have a 2 for the TMM, a 3 for the woods, a 4 for this partial cover, and then a 6 for the range. So it's going to be 6s on and it says on a TN of 6 or less, and overheat might let the unit hit the target structure, use up to 1 overheat. It doesn't need to do that. It only has 5 total pips, and it does 5 damage, so there's no need to overheat. Okay, rolling that up on 6s for 5 damage. Oh, it missed 1. Yep, just missed 1. So this is going to do several things here. Let me mark the damage. So it's going to do 2 armor and 2 structure. Now, anytime you damage a ground vehicle, you roll on the mode of hits table. And the mode of hits just basically means, are you going to reduce this unit's movement? So that's this right here. So I'm going to take these out of here and leave just 1. And basically you need to roll a 9 or higher to do anything to it. So let's start with the motive hit. Nothing. That's a 3. So on a 2 to 8, it doesn't do anything. Then we're going to roll on the ground vehicle critical hits table. And this, as I mentioned, this table is different. It always does a critical hit. As I mentioned in another video, but this table does a critical hit no matter what you roll. So let's go ahead and roll that. A 5. So 5 is going to be a fire control hit. So I'm going to mark that. I think I'm going to mark that with a gray. So that's going to be a 2 penalty in future rounds when it attempts to fire. It's also going to be in force withdrawal because it has lost more than half of its structure. So it's going to go into force withdrawal, mark that with a blue. So that LRM carrier is going to have to move backwards off of the map at this point. Okay, so let's go into the, who's next? The Hellbringer. This is an easy one. It can only shoot at the Shadowhawk, so there's no need to go through the card. That's the only thing it can shoot at. So it's going, sorry, I'm going to put the Executioner down and get it out of the way. And so the Hellbringer is going to shoot at the Shadowhawk. It's going to have a 2 for its skill, a 2 for the TMM, and a 2 for the range. And that's it. So that's going to be a 6. So I will need to check the overheat. It says if TN7 or less, and overheat might let the unit hit the target structure, use up to 2. The structure, or the armor left on the Shadowhawk is only 3. It does not, and I think it does 4 damage. Yeah, it does 4 at medium, so it does not need to overheat for this. So we're just gonna roll up 4 on a 6. And it missed 1. It did miss, yeah, missed 1. Did 3 damage. And so it didn't quite get into the structure. It just eliminated all of the armor on the Shadowhawk. So that's gonna take all of that away. 2, 3. Okay, so Shadowhawk's in trouble. All right, so we'll take care of that one. And then we'll finish up with the Summoner. So the Summoner is going to try to hit the target. It's looking for units in 24. So I think I'm going to measure real quick to the LRM carrier. Yeah, they're all pretty much anything over here. The Victor, I think it can see the Victor. Yeah. Oh yeah, it had to, because that was what it targeted on for movement. All 3 of those over there are candidates. It's looking for the most armor lost. That would be the Victor. It's lost the most armor in this battle. It's lost 5 already. Okay, so that's what it's going to attack. So it's going to have a 2. It's going to have partial cover for 3, 4, 5 for the TMM, and then 2, so that'll take it to 7. On a TN7 or less, and overheat. Does the Summoner have overheat? It does not, so don't need to worry about that. So it's going to have 7s, and it does, for medium range, it does 4. Man, these clan mechs are crazy. Okay. All right, so it needs 7s. Ooh, rolled a Snake Eyes. It only does 2. I did calculate that right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah. So it only does 2 damage to the Victor. So that's also going to strip the Victor of all of its armor. But it's still in the game. Okay, so that does it for combat. So we're going to do the same thing and clean this up. We're going to, sorry, same thing as last round. We're going to look at this card again. We're going to flip it over. Nobody lost anything. So now it says if there is an enemy in one of your unit's rear. So I would say, I guess so. I'm going to check the rules real quick on what exactly it means by that. Does it mean in my rear where it does damage, or just behind its firing arc? The rules don't mention this specifically. I'm going to play it like it is in the rear. It's behind enemy lines. That's the way I'm going to read that. So I'm going to go ahead and switch it up to, I think it's at card D, right? Yeah. That's the second priority, so we're going to switch over to card D. It's going to have different orders for the initiative phase, so we'll get into that in just a minute. Okay, we got a lot going on here. So this says for orders, initiative phase, add 2 to your initiative roll. So the Automa won the initiative last round, so we're going to have a straight initiative roll here. It's getting a -2 penalty because it's already won initiative on the last round, and it's getting a +2 from its commander orders. So we're just going to do a straight up roll. Holy moly. Okay, well, the Mercenaries win. I'm a 12 machine today. All right, so Mercenaries win. So we're going to do a couple things here. We're going to flip this. We're going to put it on turn 3, and we're going to read Waypoint G first, and let's see what's going on here. I'm afraid it's going to bring out the other units. Okay, G, your nav flashes in the corner of your eye. 2 more red carrots are closing in. There it is. Enemy recon elements must have been on patrol. Place the Fire Moth and Pouncer. Okay, but I'm not using those. I'm using the Mad Dog and the Shadow Cat. At the center of one edge of the map, roll a die to determine which edge. 1 to 3 is the north, 4 to 6 is the south. I don't know what side I want them to come in on. They both seem equally bad, but I feel like I'm in better shape in the south, so maybe that would be better, but here we go. Let's see. Nope, they're going in on the north. Yeah, they're going to go on the north edge. Oh boy, the north edge is in trouble. So they're actually going to go into the center, it says. Yeah, into the center. So they're going to go right there. Okay, well, that changes things. Okay, then, in addition, so let me put these cards back out here. I'm going to put the initiative order up. And we have a commander order to put the move last token on one of the units. So let me double check that. So I'm going to put it like that. So it says, add the move last token to your unit with the highest move rating. So we have 2 with 10, then go to the best short range damage. That's going to be the Hellbringer. So that one's going to move last, which it was going to move first. So now it's going to move last instead. Okay, all right. So the aces will move first. So let me take a look at those cards, and then we will we'll see where the summoner is going to move. Okay, the summoner doesn't have a lot of great options here. The first 2 needed a moved unit, and none have moved yet, so it had to go to cautious. And this is what I'm this is kind of what I'm testing here in a sense while I'm doing this, which is when this Condor gets behind lines, which it has now, are the automa units going to key on it? Are they going to get distracted by this Condor and start leaving the rest of the units to just kind of do whatever they want, at least from a movement standpoint? So it is going to target the nearest, which is the Condor. It's right next to it. And it wants to maintain 18 inches from it if it can, have line of sight to the target, and have cover from as many enemies as possible. So it doesn't have enough movement to get here, which actually wouldn't give it that much cover because these units over here could get to it. So I'm thinking that really the best place for it to go is going to be right here. So that's based on my my measurement and my analysis of this. I think that's where it's going to want to move because it's going to have cover from basically everything, including the Condor. But it can still see it, I think, over that building. Usually they definitely can see. I would say it's pretty close. So I'm just going to move it a little bit that way, like right onto the waypoint. So it has cover from that, and it has cover from everything. And that will be for the duration of the turn. So I'm using the golden rule here and just saying that makes the most sense to me. That speeds the game along. So that's where we're going with. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move some of the player units, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I went with the easy ones first. So the Shadowhawk just zipped down here because it just wants to stay out of the fray. It's just into structure now. I do need its speed, though, in case this is a cache over here. I need it to be able to at least get line of sight to that at some point. To try to do its measly 1 point of damage. I moved the Warhammer out because at this point it has a ton of armor, and I'm going to try to bait the automa this way a little bit, just to, because there's a lot going on up in the north there. So I want to try to get some of these units out this way. I don't know if that's smart or not, but I'm going to give it a shot. So yeah, so I'm going to do that. And then the LRM carrier up in the north there, it just moved back 1 inch just to get its TMM, which I didn't give it. I forgot to put the dice there, but it gets its TMM and it stays in the woods and it can still shoot. So so I thought that was the best place for it. Okay, so next up is the Executioner. And oh, you know what I forgot? I got to put the other ones out too. I may have jumped the gun on who went first. Hopefully not. Nah, I don't think so. Okay, we're good. They have pretty high numbers, so I think we're good. Okay, so let me try to figure out where the Executioner will go next. Okay, I'm just realizing that I only had to move 2 units, not 3. So I'm actually going to move the Warhammer back into the woods here because I forgot there's 5 units now. I'm getting all goofed with these 2 units coming up. But anyway, I didn't have to move 3, so I just go ahead and move that one back. Now, the Executioner, it's checking for the ideal target in red, which I've calculated as being the lowest, or the most armor lost, and then the highest move, which would be the Shadowhawk down here. That would technically be its ideal red. But the movement says, look for it. It has to be within 24 inches, which it is. And it says, then look for a target within 12 to 24 inches, being able to get line of sight to attack the target, the red target, after it's moved, which it has. I think the only way, it doesn't say it can use jump movement though, because the only way it could do it would be to jump. I don't think it has, because the movement's so low because it took that MP hit. Yeah, it only has, what do we calculate that as? 5, right? Yeah, it only has 5 movement. So yeah, there's no way it can get to that. So but it's weird because I don't know if that means like if you can't do this condition, you just skip everything, right, normally. But what if the condition is true and you do this, but you can't actually get into the target range? What do you do? Do you skip it and go to the next one, or do you just execute it anyway? Because to me, then I would say, I mean, based on the examples in the rule book, I think you figure out some way to make this work. And in that case, the LRM carrier has moved, so it could key on that one instead. And again, let me know if I'm wrong on this, but I think once you pass this condition at the top, you do this no matter what. Like you don't say, well, I can't do any of this, so let me skip, although I did that before because the unit couldn't jump. So here we go again with, I don't know, should I just say do what's best? Because, to me, it's like, why, I don't think it's worth the executioner going after that LRM carrier. That doesn't seem to be great. And basically it's going to do the same thing. Line of sight only to the target, the LRM carrier. That's going to be not possible. Get closer to the target and get cover versus as many enemies as possible. I'm just going to go like this. It can move just an inch to get its TMM, which is reduced to 1, and it's going to go like that. I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of great things this one can do because it has so little movement. But let me know what you think about this situation. But I don't think jumping up here to attack the Shadow Hog down at the bottom here is a great move, because it's basically it's a death wish. It's just everything can attack it and kill it. So I just don't think that's a good move. So I'm going to go there. That's going to prevent anything from getting in its rear, but it is still a bit of a sitting duck there. But it at least is protected from everything down here. So, okay, that's what I'm going with. Sorry. Okay, so I went ahead and moved that Warhammer out. Again, I'm trying to see if I can get at least the Hellbringer at this point to come out this way. I don't think it's going to happen at this point. And then I just moved the Mana Core back in the woods a little bit just to aim at those 2 new mechs that came out, because it doesn't have anything to aim at really right now. So it did that. Okay, so the Mad Dog's going to move next, and it's going to use aggressive movement because it says if there are any moved units within 18 inches, which it has the LRM carrier, and sorry, I'm going to go up here because that's where the Mad Dog is, and if it has no unmoved units within 6 inches, and it does not, it's going to key on a target within 12 inches or 18 inches, and it has to be a unit that moved, or that it can target after that unit moved, which would only be the LRM carrier. It's going to the blue category as well, which is looking more for move, lost structure, armor loss. That probably would be, even if there was another unit, it probably would be the same one anyway. Okay, so it's going to try to get in the fewest enemy lines of sight, and it get cover from as many enemies as possible, or occupy woods. It probably could occupy woods, but it wouldn't make sense for it to go that way. So I think for now, it could probably tuck itself here behind this building. That might be a good way. A better way might be to go here, though, to try to get cover. The Demolisher hasn't moved yet, so there's not much it can do. Does it say to move closer to the target? It does not. So I feel like here might be good. It wants cover from as many enemies as possible. Maybe here, I'm going to double check. I think I can see that LRM carrier. I'll double check, but I think that's good. Okay, I just positioned it in a little bit more just because it just has cover from the LRM carrier. It has cover anyway because the LRM carrier has to shoot through woods. But anyway, I just made sure the building covered it as well. And then I also want to make sure it wasn't in the open for the Condor, so it does have cover from that. It's moving fairly early, so there's only so much it can really do here, but I think that's pretty good. Okay, I'll move. So now I'm going to move 2 more units, I believe. And then I'll go 1-to-1 movement after that. Okay, so the Demolisher moved south a little bit to stay in those woods, but I want to give it a clearer shot at this waypoint over here, because that's where I'm going to have the Condor get over there and reveal that one. So if that's a cache, I want the Demolisher to be able to shoot at it, although that might, now that I think about it, that might be too far. Ooh, boy, that is just a 24. Does it have long range? I don't think it does. Nope, it has 0 at long range. So now that I think about that, it didn't move very far. So I'm gonna move it out just a little bit to keep it in that woods template, but get it maybe a little closer. So hopefully I can shoot there. And then I didn't use much of the movement there, so that should be fine. And then the catapult did something similar, just kind of moved down a little bit just into here to get a shot at the summoner. I don't really know what to do with these units, to be honest. They're too slow to really do much of anything. I could move it out. Ooh, maybe I should. Because then, yeah, you know what? I'm actually going to change that up. I'm gonna do this live on camera. So I'm going to move it about 8 inches out. I'm going to try to keep it in range of the summoner. So I can put it about right there. And that's going to give me an opportunity, if we reveal that objective or this one, that it could jump up and attack it if I need to. That'll actually make the catapult useful. Okay, I think that I like that better. We'll see if that Hellbringer comes around the bend though and shoots at it. But I don't know. I'm going to take the risk. Okay, so then the Shadow Cat decided to. I ended up using cautious movement because the ideal target was the Victor, at least from the red list, but it can't. It hasn't moved yet. So it has to just hold off. So it did cautious movement, and it wanted to get line of sight to the target in the fewest enemy lines of sight. I played around with a couple areas here, but I know the Condor can get in its rear arc, but I think that's the best because nothing else has line of sight to it except the Victor and the Condor, and it has cover to the Victor. I felt like if I put it here, I was just running the risk that like the Victor could get up in its face or something, and I didn't think that was a good move. I don't think this is a great move either, but you know, I tried to make the best of what I could. I maybe could try to do something like that, but I don't think it doesn't have line of sight to the Victor. So I'm going to just stick with that. I know something can get in its rear, but you know, there's only so much you can do here. There's a lot of units on the board. Okay, now it's 1 for 1, so I'll move 1. They have to move 1, and then I get to move the last one, which of course, I think it actually might be the Victor. The Condor did exactly what I said it was going to do. It moved this way, and I moved the building so you could actually see where it is. Sorry, it's over there. And it got close enough to that waypoint, which is waypoint C, and it got its TMM, and it's actually tucked to the side of that building to get partial cover from anything that decides to shoot at it. But it can still see the Shadowhawk and the Vulture, the Mad Dog. Then the Hellbringer had to go, and it was keying on a red target, which is either the Shadowhawk way at the bottom, which it can't reach, or the Victor. They've lost the most armor. And actually, it really is the Victor, because it's lost 6, and the Shadowhawk's only lost 5. So it's keying on the Victor, and it used the middle balance movement, and it just wants to get to the target in medium range, get a little bit closer to the target, and get cover from as many enemies as possible. I did the best I could. Obviously, it needs to see the Victor, so that was about the best I could do. So we're really heavy front-loaded here on the north. All the units are except the Summoner in the north. So I follow the instructions. That's the best I could do. I'm not certain that I would do that, but to be honest with you, this side's better for their units than the bottom. Because everything on the bottom pretty much, except the Shadowhawk, has no damage really. So, I don't know. As always, let me know what you think, but I feel like that's the best. It has cover from the Victor, even though based on the way it's set up, there's no way in hell the Victor's going up there anywhere near those guys. In fact, the Victor's just going to go ahead and jump. It's going to jump. Does it need to jump? I guess it doesn't need to jump, but it's gonna come down here and just stay out of the fray. I'm gonna be smart about it, so it can move to right about here. And I wonder if I jump though, because it was like right here. I wonder if I jump, if I could get in. No, I can't. So it can go about here, and just get the 1 TMM, but it's out of line of sight of everything, so nothing can really hit it. Man, I'll tell you what, initiative so important when you're getting into close quarters like this, because if I didn't have initiative, that Victor would be toast. I probably have to move the Condor last, I guess. Well, no, I'd move the Victor last, but it'd be toast because something would be able to get it pretty hard. So, okay, things are really keying on the Victor and the Condor. The Condor because it was closest to everything, and the Victor because it's lost so much armor. So that makes sense, although I feel like for this type of mission, I wouldn't say the automa is necessarily playing very well because, you know, you've got a lot of units down here. The key objectives are over here on the right, but it's kind of heading in this direction just to get on the Victor. And it's sort of ignoring everything else from a movement standpoint. It does have the Summoner over here, which is good. But again, it keyed on the Condor. it's like the Condor's kind of drawing them this way, then the Victor's drawing them this way, and so they're leaving me the bottom field, which you could look at it both ways. Yeah, it's kind of weird that they're going this way, but on the other hand, what can these guys do right now? Nothing. They can't hit this one, and they can't hit that one, and they can't hit that one. So not really a whole lot they can do. Okay, so we'll get into combat. The automa has to go first, so I'll start looking through these cards real quick. I don't want to bore you with going through 5 cards. I've already bored you enough with my ramblings. So let me go ahead and do that, and we'll come back and do some shooting. Okay, Hellbringer only has 2 possible targets, the LRM carrier and the Demolisher. It's looking for a red target, which is going to be the LRM carrier because it's lost the most armor. Again, I wouldn't make that decision because it's already in forced withdrawal, but I guess what the heck, just get it out of here. So it does 4 damage for medium. It's got a 2, a 3 for TMM, a 4 for the woods cover, and a 6 for medium range. So obviously it won't overheat because there's really no point. It's gonna almost surely gonna blow this thing up, and it doesn't need it to get into structure, so I'm not even gonna look at it. Okay, yep, that's dead. All right, LRM carrier is down, which I think everybody could have predicted, but it is off the, oh wait, sorry, don't take it off the board because I can still shoot. Okay, so yeah, that was the Hellbringer. Bye-bye LRM carrier. And I realized, I realized I positioned these wrong in terms of facing. They like the Mad Dog shouldn't be facing that way. It should be facing so it can see everything. Same with the Shadowhawk. There's no reason for it to be facing toward the Victor. It should be facing down so it can see the full field and prevent things from getting in its rear. That way it can shoot the Condor because both of them were faced that way, so they couldn't shoot the Condor, but that's not correct positioning. They need to be facing that way. Okay, Summoner's up. It has 2 targets, 2 potential targets, actually 3, now that I think about it. Because I think it can see the Warhammer. Again, sorry, I kind of did this wrong because it should be facing this way because the Condor was here. Sorry, I'm just kind of doing it like I'm playing classic BattleTech, sorry. But the facing should be this way because all the units at that time were over here. I know the Condor moved there, but at the time, everything was in its field of vision by facing that way. So yeah, so it can see the Warhammer, the Catapult, and the Manticore. So now I think it actually is going to go to the Warhammer because it's looking at most... it's looking for armor loss, and none of these units have lost armor. And then it's looking at the yellow, which is most armor lost, highest TMM, they all have the same, and then highest point value, which is definitely going to be the Warhammer. Yeah, it's 40, so it's going to go for the Warhammer. I'm going to check if it has partial cover, though, because of these buildings here. Nope, it can't see the Warhammer at all because of this building and this building. So it's going to target the Catapult at medium range. It does 3 at medium range. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be pretty easy. It's going to have a 2. The Catapult has nothing blocking it. So it's a 2, 3, it's a 5 for medium range. This is going to hurt, but like I said, I'm playing the long game here with the Catapult. I'm playing for future rounds. Sorry, it does 4. It does 4 for medium range. So it only needs 5s. It has overheat instructions, but again, the Summoner has no overheat, so that's going to happen. Hit everything. So that's going to be 4 points of damage to the Catapult. So that stinks, but again, going for the long term here. All right. So that's going to bring us to the rest of the field, who really can, I mean, they have the Condor and they have the Demolisher. Those are really the only things they can attack. Actually, the Shadowcat can't, is going to have to attack the Condor, so I'll just go ahead and do that. By the way, I didn't mark these. Sorry. I'll tell you, this is exhausting, doing this, trying to teach, trying to play the game, and trying to film things so you can see it. It's pretty exhausting. I'm going to move things over here a little bit. But the Shadowhawk has to attack the Condor, so that's going to be a 2 plus 3 for the Condor's TMM, 5, 6 for partial cover, 8 for medium range. So the Shadowcat does, sorry if I said Shadowhawk, but the Shadowcat does 3. For medium range, it's going to need 8s. On that Condor, all it needs is 1, and it could immobilize it. It's possible. Oh, wait, hold on. Before I do that, I didn't even read the Waypoint. Sorry. Let me get the book here. But yeah, I didn't read the Waypoint. So Waypoint, what is that again? C. In the awning of a building, stacks of munitions crates are piled high on pallets. Several tons of missile ammo for keeping an enemy force well supplied. This waypoint represents a supply cache. Okay, cool. So that will give me an opportunity to blow it up. But first, let's see if the Condor gets blown up. So sorry, it needs 8s, yeah. Oh, it missed everything. Wow. What luck. What luck. Okay, I'm going to check that Mad Dog if it can target the Demolisher, if it's also going to try the Condor. Yep, it can see the Demolisher. So we'll see if it's going to go for that or the Condor. Okay, Mad Dog's going for the blue target, which is the highest move, which is going to be the Condor. So the Mad Dog does 5 damage and medium range. Uh-oh, this could be bad. And it's going to have a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, same thing. Something tells me it's going to get an 8. Oh my God, my rolling's so bad, but it did get an 8. I got 2 8s, actually. Got 2 8s. Okay, we need to roll motive hit for that attack. And this could immobilize it. We'll see. It gets a +1 because it's hover. So it actually is going to get a bonus to a motive hit. Ah, it rolls a 3. Does nothing. Wow, that stinks for the aces, because that would have been huge if it could do some movement damage to the Condor. Okay, so Condor takes 2 pips, and that's it for now. So the Executioner is last. The Executioner can't see the Condor, so it can only fire at the Demolisher. So it's going to have a 2, 3, 4 for cover, and a 6. So it needs 6s. And the Executioner, I believe, also does 5 points for medium range. Yes. So it just needs 6. Hold on, let me check actually if it's going to overheat. Hold on. So it has an overheat 2. So it says if it's 6 or less, use maximum OV. Oh no, if it's destroyed. Okay, if TN is 8 or less and the overheat might let it hit its structure. So the Demolisher has 5 pips. So yes, it's going to overheat up to, it says up to 2. I'm going to use just 1. Okay, so I marked that Executioner with a orange dice to indicate it overheat by 1. It's going to roll 6, and it needs 6s. Oops, Rogue Pink. This is going to hit anyway. So this one misses. I think everything else hits. Yep, everything hits. So that's gonna strip it of armor. But that's okay. And if we can take out another cache, that might be just enough for me to be convinced to just flee. We'll see. Because I do get, so you get 3 points for destroying 3 mechs. That's not going to happen. 3 points for getting half of your force off the table. And then obviously, I think it said 1, but did it say 1 for the cache? I don't even remember. Did it say that? Yeah, 1 victory point for each cache with a maximum of 4. Huh, I guess that means there's 4 of them. Or maybe there's 5, I don't know. But okay, so that's that. So the player will go now. Okay, that LRM carrier can just see down the line between those buildings. So it has, I'm going to give it partial cover to the Waypoint cardboard token, if that makes any sense. The Condor automatically hit. It was only I think it was a 0 for it to hit. So it's got 2 points of damage on that Waypoint C. And so the LRM carrier does 3 damage. And I think this will be long range. Yeah, it will be. So it's not a guarantee, but it needs to get at least 2 to knock that thing out. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, the Condor does 2 damage at short range. So it, yeah, so it was an automatic 2 points of damage to that waypoint, or that cache, I should say. I should call it what it is, a cache. Got to use the theme here. So now it's gonna, the LRM carrier is gonna try. It's gonna have 6s. It actually has a 10 before the immobile modifier. Because it's shooting out of trees and woods, and it has partial cover from the building. So we're gonna go for 6s. Let's see what happens. It missed 1. I cannot believe it, but it did a critical. Just kidding. That's terrible. That's terrible. Okay, well, it only did 1, so I marked it with this pink dice, so it's got 3 on that one. Wow, that's gonna make it difficult now. I wonder what that Condor can do to take that. Does it stay there to take it out? Or do we hope that LRM carrier can... Well, I guess the LRM carrier is not going to die. So I guess it could... yeah. I guess it could do it. All right, we'll do the rest of the shooting next. All right, Demolisher is going to go next. I think I'm actually going to target the Hellbringer and try to put it in force withdrawal. I was going to do the Executioner, but I may as well do the Hellbringer and see if I can get it to move away. So the Demolisher does 4 damage. I calculated it's an 8 for its skill 6 for the Hellbringer's TMM, and then medium range for 8. So it's gonna need at least 3 to get into this structure. Maybe I ought to just go for the Executioner. It's the same mod, actually, because of the partial cover. Nah, I'm gonna go for the Hellbringer. Okay, we need 8s. Okay, missed that one. Just got one. Nah, that's too bad. Oh well. Wasn't expecting that much, to be honest. So the only other firing we have here in this round attacking is going to be the Manticore and the Catapult against the Summoner. That's really the only target they can see, so that's where they're going to go. So the Catapult has a 4, 5, 6, a 7 for the partial cover, and 8, 9 for the medium range. So it can do 3 at medium range, I think. Catapult, yep, 3. Okay, here we go, needs 9s. It gets nothing. Okay, Manticore also does 3. I think the Manticore, I'm gonna check. Let's check the range real quick. Manticore, oh boy, that is super close. Just outside, that's gonna be long range. So that's gonna be pretty bad mods. That's gonna be a 4, a 5, 6, 7, 8, and it's gonna need 12s, but what the heck, why not give it a try? I've rolled a couple 12s today. Got some 6s, but not the right ones. Okay, they all miss. And that's going to do it for combat. The Shadowhawk and the Warhammer can't see anything, so that's going to do it. So I'm going to clear the movement dice, and then I'm going to come up with some sort of a strategy for what to do here. Oh, but let's do initiative real quick. So bring the initiative out. Let me get these dice out of here. Bring these ones. Okay, so the player now has a... Oh, wait, sorry. We got to do this first. Got to do this. So we'll flip over to the back. It says, if this automated force's objective is complete. Nope. Okay, sorry. I misspoke. I was thinking for a second, I'm like, did we lose anything? And yeah, we did. I forgot that we lost the LRM carrier. I said before that it would have another shot. It won't. That's why I was so upset that it didn't kill that cache. So sorry. So it's going to say, if you lost less point value worth of units this turn, which they did, they're going to go back to card A now. So we're going to pull card A. So they don't have a bonus to initiative. I mean, they do, because the players are getting a -2, but they don't get an additional 2 from the commander card, given what happened in that round. Okay, so it's just going to be -2 to the brown dice. Okay, they're going to win anyway, the aces, so aces will have initiative. I'll move it to turn 4 on the red, and we'll get started with movement. Okay, so my movement was I moved the Demolisher into here to take partial cover behind this building, but I'm moving it in within medium range to the waypoint, the cache over there, to make sure I kill that thing this turn. I'm kind of sacrificing the Demolisher, but I'm also wondering if I'm going to be able to manipulate the automa to kind of key on this, which I think they will. And so that's what I'm hoping for. And then I just sprinted the Manticore. I don't think you can see it. There we go. I sprinted the Manticore this way. There's nothing left for it to do in this game, in this battle, so I may as well just start moving. And I kind of made a on-the-fly rule adjustment because of my map size. I don't think it's really fair for me to be able to escape down here. It's just so easy to get them all off right here. So I'm just going to play it that this is my only escape path is to the left here. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, I'm going to just kind of speed through movement. Now, I'm not going to walk through every single card just because I'm sure you've got the hang of it at this point. You don't need to see me go through every card, but I did just want to point out this Juggernaut card. So the Executioner is kind of getting itself in trouble here because it always goes first, but it can't do aggressive movement because the unit no longer occupies woods. It can't do balance because it only has 1 armor. So it can't do this one. So it has to do cautious, and basically it's saying target the nearest enemy. Okay, well, that's the Demolisher. And then use ground movement to get cover from the target, but also move closer to it. But cover is the bigger priority, but it's like it only has 3-inch movement right now because it took the MP hit from the critical, and then it also has a heat. It's overheating. So it takes 2 inches off. So it literally can only move 3 inches right now. I think I'm just going to use stand. I think I'm going to override and just say, I'm just going to stand still here and just kill this thing. It's not going to be able to do enough damage to destroy me, and then pretty much nothing else is going to hit me. So I feel like that's a better move than what this is trying to do. So I'm going to institute the golden rule. Let me know what you think about that one. I don't know how I feel about that, but there we go. Okay, I'll move some more. I'll just come back if there's anything interesting. I won't, I'll let you know what happened, but I won't read through every card. All right, after movement, nothing terribly exciting happened. Well, I guess some on the mercenary side it did. The automa side, not so much. So I basically decided I'm gonna sprint these 3 units here off. And sorry, I don't know if you can see all of them, but I sprinted the Warhammer and the Shadowhawk this way. I'm gonna try to use those as my guaranteed to get off the map units. Now the Hellbringer had a card that wanted it to move behind the Demolisher, so it did key on the Demolisher, and it tried to move behind it, but it wanted to get as far away as it could from other units, and the Victor and the Catapult were here, so it had to go that way a little bit. But that will make it interesting, although I think on the next turn these 3 are going to get off the map, so it's not going to matter. But it could get interesting depending on who it targets. I jumped with the Catapult because I have to get line of sight to this to get the 4th one. I mean, I guess I don't have to get it. I could just get off the map, but I'm going to try to take this thing out and that thing out and score as many points as I can. The Condor, of course, moved down. We got B for this one, and it says, I read it. It says you spot a parked flatbed, battered by the harsh environment, but clearly still in use. Beside it lies a large open doorway, blah, blah, blah. It's a supply cache. So I assume this one is not, because it said you can get a max of 4. I don't know, maybe it is. But I'm going to try to get these 2 and then get everybody off the map. But I had to judge, should I sprint the Victor off the map as my 4th? But then I said, you know what? If this guy rolls terribly, I'm going to regret not jumping the Victor up here. So I jumped them both. The Victor's going to end up maybe being my sacrificial lamb, although only 2 units can hit it. And I should have faced it this way, because nothing's over here, so there's no reason for me to turn my back to the Hellbringer. Yeah, so anyway, that was my thought process there. I don't know if the Condor is going to survive, because the Summoner... Now, this was a good move, I thought. The Summoner keyed on the Condor and wanted to have access only to it on its turn. Now, these had all sprinted, so they can't attack, so that was a good move to go right there in short range and try to take this thing out, because that thing I can get off the map no problem if it gets away. So now the one that was... so the Mad Dog, it hid behind this building. It also keyed on the Demolisher. Again, this is kind of what I was trying to do, which get them to look at the Demolisher as the target instead of anything else, and it did. And it just tried to hide from everything else and get line of sight to that, which it did successfully. And then the Shadowhawk was a little weird because it keyed on the Condor, but then, and I'll show you the card, so we used Balanced here because it couldn't get behind the Condor, so it used Ideal Blue as in it has moved. Then it wants a target within 14 inches, which the Victor and Catapult were. So, and technically, I guess the Demolisher was too, but because of the blue here, it would key on the Victor because it has the highest point value. So, because I don't think the Victor has structure damage, or nor the Demolisher, right? Neither of them have it, so it's going to go for the Victor. So it wanted cover for as many enemies as possible, and it couldn't really do anything else other than get closer to the target. So I just moved it here because it can see the Victor, but I don't think anything else can see it. I guess maybe the Demolisher could. I could probably just move it forward just a little bit more so the Demolisher can't see it. So, that one, I guess I'm not necessarily sure what it should do, but I feel like game state-wise, that's probably a fine move to try to take the Victor out or cripple it. So maybe it can't get off the table. I don't know. We're going to see. Let's see what happens. So the Mercenaries are going to go first, so I'm going to deal an automatic 2 points of damage to Waypoint B, because the Condor is within 6 inches, so that short range is just 4 - 4, so it's an automatic hit. So it has 2 points of damage. And then I'm going to start with the Catapult, which does less damage, and I'm going to see if I can just take that thing out. So that's going to be 3 points of damage. It jumped, so it's at a 6, 7, 8 for medium range, and then it's going to need 4s. So I feel like it's going to do it, but just in case I have the Victor there. And look, see what I mean? But it did do it, and I rolled another 12. But it did barely successfully blew this thing up. So I will take that one. Now I'm going to do the Demolisher, which is at 4. I made sure it's in medium range, so that's 5, 6, and then -4, so that's an automatic hit for all 4 damage, so that's going to blow this one up as well. And I got the maximum I can get, which is 4 points from the supply cache. So that's good. So at this point, it's just get the heck off the table. That's our goal. Nope, I don't think anybody else can shoot. The Victor can. So the Victor I think can only target the, well, it can target the yeah, it's going to target the Hellbringer. That's what it's going to do. So it's going to have a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's going to have 10s, which is a lot, but it's going to give it a try. Because I think the Shadow Cat has a 3 mod, so it's almost just as bad, and I don't think, yeah, it can't even get in the structure on that, but it can get in the structure on the Hellbringer, so. Okay, we're looking for 10s here. I rolled 2 I rolled 2 pairs of pink dice. I'll just re-roll this one. Okay, that's a miss one on everything. So everything misses, which I kind of thought would happen, but it was worth a try. So that's it for the heroes. And so now we'll see what the automa is going to do. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing there. I think I rolled 5 pairs of dice there. Sorry. Anyway, it didn't matter. Missed everything. All right, the Executioner can only see the Demolisher, so it's going to fire at that. It does have overheat. I think it is in short range anyway. Yeah, definitely in short range. So this is going to be, it's going to get a 2, a 3 for the heat, a 4 for the Demolisher's movement. So this is going to pretty much be an auto kill, but let's see. Yeah, that's an auto kill. So that hit with, I do have 5 dice, right? Yes. So that's 5 points of damage. That's going to blow up the Demolisher. And that's going to make it interesting because now the Hellbringer, since it didn't go first, the Hellbringer can and will aim at one of these other targets. So we'll see which one. I have a feeling it's going to be the Victor, but we will see. So that takes care of the Demolisher. It's off the map. So yeah, let's see what the rest will do. Okay, let's go to the Hellbringer. Oops, sorry, I forgot to do the Executioner. Put that card away. It's going to look at units within 6 inches, which it can't do. It's going to go to 24 inches. That's going to make this interesting. So the Manticore is definitely within 24. The Warhammer is as well. And I'm guessing the Shadowhawk is too. Yeah, and that's important because it could target the Shadowhawk because it has very low armor. So it can't hit the target's rear, I don't think. No, given the facing, I made sure they couldn't. And it's going to go to the yellow command list, which is going to look at most armor, most medium damage, and the lowest TMM. So most medium damage is going to be either the Warhammer or the Victor. And it's going to go to lowest TMM, which is going to, I guess that's going to be the Warhammer. Seems like a weird choice there. But that's okay. That's what it wants to do. So it's going to have a 2, a 3 for the woods, a 4 for the Warhammer's movement, and then it's going to be 6s because of medium range. So it can do up to 4 damage. So let's check the overheat. It's going to say, well, of course it can hit structure no matter what. So I feel like, maybe I'll mention this at the end, but I feel like these overheat comments need a little bit of like, can you destroy the unit? Because this can overheat 3. So it could, I think it could destroy, well, it couldn't destroy the Warhammer because it has 7 damage and it only lets it use up to 1 overheat, so it can't do it. So never mind. All right. So sorry, it's a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry. Brain's getting scrambled. Oh my. Oh, wow. An awful roll. Only 1 hit. Just 1. And the Warhammer's untouched, so that's going to do absolutely nothing. Okay, so that guarantees that those 3 units are going to get off the field. Okay, so we will wrap that one up, and we'll go to the next one, which is going to be the Mad Dog. And the Mad Dog can, I think it has line of sight to the Manticore. And that's the only thing it has line of sight to. So that's what it's going to attack, the Manticore. And I don't think it's going to get any bonuses. So it's going to have a 2, a 3, and then let's see if it has long range. Okay, I take it back. Maybe this one won't get off. That is, let's see here. That is long range. It's 25 inches. So that's going to be long range. So it's going to have 2, 3, 7. So let's check the overheat. So on a 7, oh my God, I knocked the catapult off. Our hero. So on a 2 and 8 or less, an overheat might let it hit the unit's target structure. Let the unit hit the target structure, use up to 1 overheat, which it has. It has 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. It has 6 pips. It does 5. It can't hit the structure, so it's not going to overheat. Okay, so it's going to try to do 5 points of damage to this Manticore. It's going to do, it needed 7, so this one misses. So 1, 2, 3. It's going to do 3, and it gets a motive hit. You never know what will happen. So let me bring this over here. I'm going to do 3, and we're going to do a motive hit. If it rolls a 12, it's immobilized, and I can't get it off the map. So let's see what happens here. Ooh, 9. So that's going to be the movement hit, and that will that'll do -2 inches move and -1 to its TMM. So it will get off the map. Okay, so Vulture's done. We're going to go into next will be the Summoner. So we're going to see if the Summoner can take out the Condor. That's its only target. So it's going to have a 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to need 5s, and at short range it does 3 damage. Okay, so it just needs 5s. And, oh wait, hold on, I forgot to check about the overheat. I'm sorry. If TN 6 or less, an OV might let the unit hit the target structure, which it wouldn't because it will already hit it. See, that's what I mean. That's kind of weird because it's just talking about can it hit the target structure. It's going to hit it anyway, but if it did an overheat, which it doesn't have overheat anyway, I'm forgetting it doesn't have overheat, but even if it did, it could destroy the unit. So I feel like that should be part of the calculation as well. Sorry, and I'm not even showing these ones. But those all hit. Sorry. Apologize if I get all over the place sometimes and I'm still not showing them. But that was over here in the corner here. So we got 1, 2, 3. So now, this is the big moment. It's going to be enforced withdrawal, which is fine. Enforced withdrawal. Now let's see if it can do any serious damage to it. So as we know, we get a +1 here for the hover, for the motive hit. A 5. That does nothing. Even on a 6, that does nothing. Now we're going to roll for a critical hit. A 5 as well. And that's going to be a fire control hit, which that's totally fine. I'll take that any day. So that's a +2 to its shooting, but that doesn't hurt any of its movement, which is what I need to get it off the map. Okay, so that really didn't do much as far as changing the game. All right, so finally we have the Shadowcat. And the Shadowcat is looking for a target within 6 inches, which I think, and I actually think the only target it can hit is a Victor, yeah. So it's going to attack the Victor. It does, I think it's at short range here. Yeah, it's at short range, and it does a lot. It does, oh no, it doesn't, sorry. I thought it was a 5, it's a 3. It does 3 damage at short range, so it's going to have a 2, a 3, 4, and I'll get a partial cover as a 5 for the building being in the way. So just 5s. Ooh. So that hits everything. So that gets into the structure. The Victor had no armor left, so that's going to get into its structure. That's going to put it into force withdrawal. So they did cripple another one of my units, but they haven't prevented it from getting off the board yet. We'll see on this next roll what happens. Okay, so there we go. Let's roll a critical hit on that. Sorry. Apologize if I'm forgetting to move the camera a little bit. It's been a long battle. A 5, that's nothing. So, okay, so the Victor lives to see another day, and that's it. So we're gonna do one more round of movement, I think, possibly a little bit of shooting, and then we'll see if the Mercenaries can get everything off of the board. I think the Condor, if it can get out of line of sight, can definitely get off the board. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so if it says if there are any enemies, if there's an enemy in your, I mean, technically there is an enemy in my rear, in one of your units' rear, so take card D. Okay, back to card D, which is probably good for them because they're going to get a bonus to initiative, which is what I wanted to check. So we're going to go to turn 5. Let's see who wins initiative. So it's basically a straight up roll here because they get a -2 for having initiative and a +2 from their commander. Ooh. So that's an 8 versus a 7. Okay, so that's the Mercenaries win. That's huge. That is huge. Okay, I'm going to do some movement, and then, yeah, okay, the heat stays on the Executioner. But yeah, everything else is good. So I'm going to do some movement, and then we'll come back, and I'll let you know if anything interesting happens. Okay, just playing through the movement here. So the Executioner went first, and it was kind of like the same thing as last time. Like, there were so few options on what to do with 3 inches of movement that I just influenced a little golden rule on it where I just said, you know what? I know these two aren't going behind me. I'm just going to jump up here and just have a shot. I mean, I've got units covering me from behind there. And obviously I know they're trying to go off the board. These cards don't know the game state in this situation. Like they don't know the objectives completed for the player force, and they don't know what they're trying to do. So it's just doing the same stuff it always does. So I'm just going to take over a little bit and say, if I were this unit, I've got a decent amount of pips left. I'm going here and I'm going to make them pay for running away. That's the way I'm taking it. So then I moved the Shadow Hawk and the Mana Core off the board. So they made it off successfully. Let's take a look at the board here. So I'd say the aces did pretty much what they should do. The summoner chased down the Condor. So it did chase that one down. It tried to get out of line of sight of anything else, which I think it did successfully. And it has line of sight to try to take that thing out as its last move. So these two up here, move the camera here. These two, the Hellbringer and the Mad Dog, they were keying on the remaining units that were left here because these ones hadn't moved. So it was trying to stay away from unmoved units. So they moved over here for cover. I did take over a little bit with these because it was like, I don't want to move. They kind of wanted to move this way, I think. At least the Mad Dog did. So I tried to move him over. I couldn't quite get cover for the Mad Dog, but I thought this makes the most sense. They're going to try to take these guys out. I did kind of retroactively move the Warhammer back on because I thought, I don't want to take him out. He has no armor damage. I want them to potentially get him for the lower TMM, and he can take the brunt of it, and then hopefully the catapult can't get off on the next turn, but hopefully after that it can. So then with the Victor, I just jumped down. I didn't know what else to do with it, but I figured if it went here, it was doomed. So I had to go here. The Shadow Cat keyed on that and came right over, got some cover, and is going to try to get a shot in there. So I think overall it did a pretty good job, and it's going to be interesting to see if we can get out of here. I mean, to be honest with you, I almost feel like not even shooting because it's like, why? I don't think I can really damage anything. That Hellbringer, though, I could take down potentially the Executioner, so maybe I will. But anyway, the aces go first. All right, here we go. Executioner is going to go for a unit within 6 inches, which it has here, but obviously it can't target it. So then it's going to go for 24 inches, which are going to be these units over here. It's going to go for the one with the highest medium damage and the most, well, highest medium damage would be the Warhammer. So as I was hoping, it's going to try to target the Warhammer. Now I'm going to play this like classic, which I think is correct, that he's up on this building so that the trees aren't providing any cover. Now it's not going to have a great shot because it's going to have a 2, a 3 for the overheat, a 4, 5 for the jumping, a 6 for the Warhammer's TMM, and then 2 for the range. So it does 5 damage. It does do 5 damage. So that could put a hurting on it, but it's going to have to hit. That's going to be the problem. It needs to hit. So I've got 5 dice. Let's check it needs an 8. So it's not going to do, yeah. It's looking for a target number of 11 or higher, so it's not going to do any overheating or unoverheating. Okay, let's roll those. It's got 3 hits there. So the black, the green, and the purple all hit. So the Warhammer is going to take 3 damage. And the Warhammer did take 1 pip of damage, but it's going to take 3 there, which that's okay. That's what I wanted to happen. So far, so good. Okay, this one's going to be interesting. So the Hellbringer is looking for any units in 24. It can't hit the target's rear, but it's looking at the yellow command list, which is looking at armor lost, which the Warhammer and the catapult are tied with 4. But then it's looking for the highest TMM. That's interesting, and that's going to be the catapult. So that's unfortunate. Kind of need that thing to get off the map here. But the Hellbringer does, remind me, 4, I believe. Does 4 from medium range, which I think it is in. Yeah, definitely within medium range. So it's going to have a, and I meant for this thing, it doesn't quite look like it, but it's supposed to be on the edge of that. It's just occupying the woods, but not shooting through any. So it's going to have a 2, a 3, 4, and a 6. Gonna have a 6. That's it. Boy, this could hurt. And of course, I could check the overheat, but it doesn't need any overheat to hit the structure. It only has, I think, 1 pip left. So looking at 6s, possibly 4 damage here. Did miss one. Got that one, and got that one. Yeah, so I got 3. Okay, so we're gonna have a critical hit. I really think it's gonna come down to the Condor here, to be honest with you, if it can survive. So 3, so the catapult's got 3 internal left. That Mad Dog's probably gonna attack it. And we're gonna roll for a critical hit. Give me 1 second. So roll for a critical hit on that catapult. A 9 does nothing. Whew. Okay. Even though it still can't get off the map next turn. So it's not exactly like out of the woods here. So, okay, we'll do that. Then next is going to be the Mad Dog. Let's see what the Mad Dog wants to do. Basically the same thing. Attacked by an ally this turn. That's both of these. And then go to the yellow command list, which is going to be highest TMM. So it's going to go for the catapult. Oh boy, this could be really bad. Yeah, this could be real bad. This does 5, and it's going to have the same TMM. I think we're going to say goodbye to this catapult. It was a hero, but I think it's going to be a 0 here in a minute. All right, target number is 6 with 5 possible damage. Ooh, I missed those 2, but everything else hit, and that's going to be enough to kill it. Sorry, catapult. But thanks for taking out that cash. Okay, so next is going to be the Shadow Cat, and the Shadow Cat can only, no, actually it can see, no, it can't see the Condor, so it can only see the Victor, and it's at short range, so it does 3 at short range, and it's going to have 2, sorry, I'm forgetting to mark these as we get late in the game here. There we go, so it's going to do 2, 3, 4, yeah, 4s. Okay, this is going to hurt. See, I don't think the Victor's, yeah, this could kill it. If it hits all of these, it could kill it. And it does, so the Victor's dead. Ooh, all of a sudden now it's like, ooh, maybe I'm not going to get off the board. But yeah, that one's done. Okay, so let's see what this, so this is really what it all comes down to now, the Summoner. So it can only hit the, I don't think it can see the Warhammer. Let's see. Boy, I got to really get down there. Actually, it can. And I picked up a tree with my hair. Okay, so it can see the Warhammer. So let's go through its list. Boy, if it attacked the Warhammer, that would be amazing. So within 24 inches, which I believe it is, but I'm going to do a measurement. Yep, it's about 19. It's looking for the most armor lost. That's going to be the Warhammer. That is going to be the Warhammer. Most armor lost, and it's from medium range. So the Summoner does 4, so that I think is going to win it. Well, not win it, but that's going to let me get these guys off the map, and at least score as high as I could given the circumstances. But let's see, could be a critical on the Warhammer, and then that's gonna, yeah, it could make it so it can't get off the map. So that's going to be a 2, a 3, and a 5 for medium range. That just seems so incredibly low. Because that's clan pilots for you. So overheat, it doesn't have overheat. I keep forgetting that. That misses 1. I think that's going to do it. That's going to make it so it just survives. Yeah, because the Warhammer has 3 armor left. And there we go. So it's going to live. And let me just do a quick measurement here. The Condor is absolutely going to get off. It can move 24 when it sprints, and the Warhammer can go 12 when it sprints. So yeah, it's going to get off the map there. So that's going to do it. That's so I'll get these 2 off the map. So that'll give me the Shadowhawk, the Manticore, the Condor, and the Warhammer are all going to get off. Now let me just double check the rules that it says 4 units and not like half of your point value or something. It says, yeah, lose no more than 4 units, which I've lost 3. No, I lost the Victor, yeah. So I lost 4, but exactly 4. I lost the Demolisher, the LRM Carrier, the Victor, and the Catapult. So I lost exactly 4. These 2 are going to get off during movement. And so there you go. I'll take it down. So that will be 4 points for the caches and 3 points for getting half of my units off the board. But wow, that was really close. So, okay, so I'll do a summary, and we'll talk about what I thought of the mission, what I thought about how the aces did, and my strategy, and then we'll see my result, what I actually got in terms of a result from this mission. All right, so let's wrap the mission up. I'll just say first that I loved the mission. I thought it was awesome. It was, yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was really close, and it was a cool, just a cool introduction to a campaign. So I'll get into that in a minute, but let's wrap up the mission itself and go through the outcome of the mission and what you do in the book. So I have the book here. I covered the left side. I mean, you technically, if you go back, you know all the waypoints except one, but I'll still cover up the text. So in case you want to do this, you can read those. But so for our outcome, it says, well, the Falcons were definitely using this outpost as a supply depot. You destroyed what you could and withdrew. That's accurate. That's exactly what I did. And I wonder if the mission kind of expects you to do this, because you're probably going to end up like I did. If you look on the right here, here's the clan force. I did a good beating on the Executioner early, and I got a little bit on the Hellbringer, but that's about all that we could do. And they were tough to hit with the 4 skill, and they hit hard. I mean, they damaged every single unit I had and took away the armor on almost every single thing except the Manicore. Every single thing was stripped of armor. So I think they probably expect you to end up in this route, because you're going to realize it's just way too hard to blow up the caches and fight off the mechs. So I think most people will probably come to that conclusion, but I don't know. Maybe some people can do better than me. So you score your performance out of a maximum of 10 victory points. So I got the 4 caches. So I had D, B, E, and C. Those are my caches that we discovered and destroyed. So that'll be 4 points. And then I did successfully get 4 of the units off the battlefield. So that was the Warhammer, the Shadowhawk, the Manticore, and the Condor. The Condor made it by 1 little pip of internal structure. But I did get 4 of them off, so that gives me 3 points. So that leaves me at 7 to 9 points, which is great. You've put to rest any doubt about your strategic capabilities. I don't hear that very often. I do like 0. Disaster. Perhaps you should consider a career change. That's pretty good. So it says, after playing the simulator mission, if you feel you're ready to build a force and take on the full campaign, see Scouring Sands, page 16, and beginning the campaign. So from here, you'll turn the page, and there's the 2 story pages you might have seen at the beginning. You'll play through, I mean, you can read through those if you're interested and you want to give some flavor to the campaign. It talks then about the special, the terrain rules and the special battle rules that are in there as well. I do wish that page was earlier, but that's okay. And then you get into the campaign missions. And I think right off the bat, you get a choice, which I love. I love that. So you get a choice of how you want to approach things. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, so that's the outcome. So I did pretty well. I wasn't legendary, which is 10 points. I mean, you'd have to be really awesome and really lucky, I think, to get the 10 points. Okay, so what did I think overall? So I already said I loved the mission. I thought it was fantastic. I love that. It was, it really highlights the spirit of campaign play. So how much are you willing to risk? Are you willing to risk your entire unit to destroy all the mechs and the caches? Or are you going to take a more measured approach like I did and say, okay, I got the 4 caches. I think it's time to get out of here. Or, you know what, I got 2 caches. I think we're in trouble. Let's just get off the map. Those are the things you'll think about during a campaign, and I think that's super fun. So yeah, big thumbs up on the mission. I am already thinking of being able to use these waypoints for other things, and just that system of, you know, having things to discover and figure out in the heat of the battle. What are you going to do? You don't have all the information from the beginning. You have to find it and then take action from there. I love it. I would like if the rule book was a little more clear. I already mentioned, I'm going to go back and show this. So these are the objectives and the special rules. And it's really simple here. It just says the waypoint represents supply caches. They are considered immobile buildings with a CF of 4. I assume that means the token, but it's not explicitly clear here. I mean, they are right next to buildings. So it's reasonable to think, well, maybe they mean you're going to make the building the cache, and that's what you have to destroy. But of course, they're not talking about destroying buildings and taking them off the map or anything. So I think they mean the tokens. You know, that's how I interpreted it. Although at first I thought it was the buildings, and then I thought better of it and said it's the tokens. But I would like that to be really explicit in these rules. Okay, how about aces? So I feel like the aces system was pretty good, especially early. It definitely put the Aces team, the Jade Falcons, it put them in good positions almost every time in the first 2 rounds, and it really pounded me. So I thought that was good. I was impressed with that. Later in the game, it did seem like I could manipulate it a little bit. So once of course, I mentioned that I brought the Condor because I was going to just have 4 tracked vehicles, and I thought, why don't I bring a hover tank and see how that plays? Something that can really fly across the map. It can't go in the woods, but it can fly across the map, and let's see what happens. And that's what I did. I put it right out early, and I was lucky because I wanted initiative, and I was able to get it behind that building. And then once I got it into the city and kind of behind the enemy lines, that's when the automa started to key on it a little bit. And I expected that. I expected it's going to say, okay, this thing's in behind me or it's right next to me. I'm gonna prioritize that. So I didn't have an issue with that, but I did start to kind of figure out how it finds targets. And so, like at the end there, I was able to bring that demolisher up. I knew they would all go after it, and not everything did, but enough that I was able to get some of those mechs out of the way and off the board. The check for the overheat is cool, and I like the way it does that. But it only really checks if you could hit structure that it can't normally hit. And I'm going to double check the rules on that. Like, I don't think it's, as long as it can hit structure, it uses it. It seems to be specifically the overheat will make it hit structure. Like, if that's the key, then you use it. And that's how I played it. So if it already was going to hit structure, I didn't use it. I don't know. I'm going to double check if that was right. I think it is, but maybe I played it wrong, because it would just be weird that if every single time it can hit a unit in structure, it's going to overheat. I don't know. But that brings me to my next point, which is there's no destroy check on it. So like, I think it was the LRM carrier or one of them, where it was like, if you did overheat, you could blow this mech up. And it doesn't say that, but it seems like kind of something you would think it would check is, if I overheat, can I destroy this unit? Yes, okay, overheat for that too. But maybe that's my misunderstanding, that if you can hit structure at all, overheat. But it's not written that way. At least my interpretation isn't that way. So that might be cool to have something like that. And I would like to see more of that in here too, is checking the game state a little bit more, because it felt like after I achieved my objective, which was destroy the 4 caches, there didn't seem to be a mechanism to change to say, okay, the player achieved their objective, let's switch out now. Like, are they fleeing? Okay, we need to, like, let's just try to kill the units and get off the board. Or maybe we're going to go off the board to preserve our units, although I don't know if that's a thing in this campaign, to like the enemy forces preserving their units. But I felt like there were a couple in between game states that it didn't necessarily account for. And some of that was like at the end of the mission here, where it's like the summoner goes out, it tracks the Condor, but then it ultimately fires at the Warhammer, which I put in there as a decoy to try to attract its attention. It did, and it fired at that instead of the Condor, which would have won the mission. And so it basically allowed me to win because of that, where it's not a guarantee it would have hit the Condor, but at least that would have for sure ended the mission. As a loss, I wouldn't have gotten those points. I don't know how to do that, so I'm not going to say I know how. I'm not a game developer, but just to me, it felt like I was able to just manipulate it in those ways to end up winning the mission. Another part of it is I'm thinking still about how long it's taking me to go through these cards and whether the cards are doing what I think is best. And I know there is the golden rule, but I don't know how often that should be applied. Most of the time I was able to figure out where the card should place the unit. Maybe I wasn't perfect, and I'm sure people will tell me if I did it wrong. But there were some times where I felt like this just really doesn't make any sense. I think of that Executioner. That one really, I feel like once it got the movement hit and then it overheated, it was like it just was useless. It could barely move, and I felt like it just kind of got stuck in that one little spot by the building, and I don't know how great that was. It was like right here. So I did apply the golden rule there, and I said I think it's better if it jumps, just given the game state, to have more options to shoot at the units trying to get off. But yeah, I don't want to over apply it, because the reason I got this and I'm excited about it is because I don't have to do that. The cards are going to tell me what to do. But it did feel like there were some times where, especially as the game state was changing, that I felt like I had to do it more. But I don't know if that's in the spirit of playing this game, with aces or not. Okay. So does any of this change my first impression? Which my first impression was super positive with this. You know, I had a couple little things that I talked about, but for the most part, I was like, this is really amazing, especially the books. So I would say the mission itself, playing this mission, was way better than I even expected. I was really impressed with how cool this mission was, and that to me is really the highlight here. That's the biggest thing to me. This mission was awesome. I can't wait to see what else they have in here. Like, I'm really, really looking forward to trying out the other missions, because this one was a really cool introduction. So I can't wait to see what they've come up with for the actual missions. I'll say I feel about the same about Aces right now. I still think it, you know, and I'm looking at the perspective of playing with my kids, and I just feel like the kids are not going to want to sit here and watch Dad do this. So from that standpoint, I'm thinking I like Aces. So my review, if you will, of Aces is in two parts. I give it an A+ for solo play. Like, I would love to use this for solo play. And I am not an Alpha Strike player. I'm a strictly classic player. But with this system, I will absolutely play Alpha Strike solo. So that gets an A+ for me. For the cooperative, I don't know. Maybe like a B- or something, because I just feel like the effort I have to put into these cards, with my kids, I may as well just take over and play the bad guys. I feel like that would just be more efficient. They'll lose interest less quickly. I can tailor it and just be like bad, you know, if I need to help them a little bit, especially since I don't think there's any failure tracks if I'm going to play through the campaign. So at least I don't think there are. I haven't done it, but you know, so that's kind of how I feel about it right now. Is it seems really super awesome for solo play, so I don't have to make the bad guy decisions. I can let something else do it. But for co-op, I don't know. I'm wondering if maybe I would just do it in that situation with kids. If I'm playing with other adults, then sure, we can use this. They're more patient. One thing that's changed for me is I feel like at first I was saying, oh, ground units, it's like they always take a critical now with the new table, but you know, maybe they won't be worth that much. But now I'm wondering maybe they'll actually be one of the better units to take, because, you know, based on how I was able to get those units to key on some of them, maybe you just take a bunch of cheap vehicles as decoys. And I know you're going to be limited on the number of units you can take, but maybe it makes sense to have a few of those expendable units that you can use to do that, to try to get the automa to move to one side of the battlefield, or to funnel in one direction, or whatever. Take a shot, like at the end there, you know, like maybe it can be like the Warhammer, where it directs a shot from a unit and saves another one. So that's something I'm thinking about. It seems like, especially fast moving ones. I mean, the Condor was probably the MVP of this. You know, it was great. It really did its job better than anyone else. That's for sure. But that's because it gun is short range, and it could easily destroy or help to destroy those caches. The references were great from this box. The combat vehicle reference, I didn't use the infantry side, but the combat vehicle is amazing. I loved having that available. I use it frequently, even on the camera, and it was great to just have those two tables right there ready to go. I love that. So that was a nice bonus from that box. So yeah, so overall, I'm really impressed. Love the mission. I like doing Aces in a more thorough way, where I not just did the first couple turns, but I also did a complete mission where I saw what happened early, and I saw what happened once I got more engaged with them, and I saw what happened when I got behind them, and when I tried to escape from them. And I think for the first three of those, it did a great job. For the last one, you know, it didn't quite do what I would do, but you know, that's okay. It's considering things a little bit differently than I would, which is a good thing. So yeah, so I hope this helped. I'm guessing there's probably people that are interested in seeing this, maybe to learn the game, or just to see what it was like to play the mission before they buy the box. So I hope this helped. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm not a professional YouTuber by any means. I really like this stuff. I love BattleTech, and so I just make these just because this is what I would want to see if I was thinking about buying the box. So that's why I did it. So anyway, I may do another one of these. I don't know. It's a lot of effort. I was starting to lose a little, getting a little fuzzy there toward the end, just because it's just a lot, managing all the units, managing the cards, trying to catch it so you can watch it. So I'll think about that, but I'll definitely, have more of my thoughts as I play through the campaign, and, just kind of update what I think about it. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Have a good one.